Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast, is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support the show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here, and welcome to episode 29 of Defining Duke, an Xbox podcast. I see that smart cog. You're feeling pretty good. Yeah, you got the Xbox shirt. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. Good to be back in the realm with the Dukes, man. Put your Dukes up. We ready to talk these games. I'm excited, man. How you been, man?
I'm doing all right. Like we were talking before this, we did a bit of a move. I helped my girlfriend move into a new place, and so it was just a lot of heavy lifting and feel a little fatigued from that. But overall, pretty good. Can't complain. Just another week in July, the most dead month for my channel in years. So I'm literally just coasting by this existential crisis. It's all fine.
I hear you, brother. We sending our love. We sending our love to your channel. I saw the tweet. I had to hit my boy up like, make sure he's good.
That's the thing, right? You get a co-host that's not only good for the show, but as a good friend. Thank you for that.
Respect, brother. You already know.
Absolutely. Thank you to the audience as well, just for being supportive of our show and everything we do. For those who are interested in supporting us more, early access for the show goes live on Thursdays over at patreon.com/laststandmedia. Like over 12,000 of you already support us there. And then it'll hit free feeds like Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts, YouTube on Sunday. You can watch the video version over on the Last Stand Media YouTube channel. Thank you to everyone, by the way, who's been updating their mobile reviews. I've seen a lot of people going in and doing that. We really appreciate that. If you have the time, feel free to do so. We don't want to pressure you, but it's just something that helps update incoming viewers as our show is growing. So I just wanted to be fair and represent, what it actually is. So thank you to everyone who did that. Last bit of housekeeping I just want to touch on is Defining Duke Ultimate episode 25 was our first live in call episode. So for those who don't know, it's pretty much I sit there in Discord, y'all who are on the Patron server jump into a call with us, and I answer your questions completely unprepared at that. Well, I guess technically you're prepared by checking the news, but I gotta say, Cog, it was a little intimidating getting in there.
Yeah, that's a different beast right there.
Right?
Shout out to Colin. I seen them set it off the week before. So you jumped into that bag, and man, it's on the fly. Like you gotta be, but that can be intimidating sometimes, because especially when you don't know what to prepare for, right? You don't know what's coming at you.
I was telling Dustin and Ben after the show, the first question we got was about Crimson Skies, which, I fully admit, like, it's not a game I'm super knowledgeable about. But when it was our first question in my head, I'm like, oh, fuck. I was like, oh, shit. I was like, I hope I didn't sign up for something. Now I'm just going to look foolish now. But fortunately, they narrowed the scope a little bit. No offense to whoever asked about Crimson Skies. It wasn't a bad question at all. Just, I was like, oh, shit. Maybe I'm not built from the live beast.
Anything but that. I feel you, bro. It'd be like that sometimes.
No, but it was a blast. We had someone come in and ask us to rank Last Stand. Like it was just an interesting set of questions. So next time we do that, we'll get you in on that.
No doubt.
Want to do the test run, see how it went, then we'll bring you in for number 2, and that'll be really good.
Yes,
that'll be a really fun time. Just a little warm up before we begin here. James Gallows had asked us, where is Ben? When are we getting more Sea of Thieves? We need more Sea of Thieves coverage with a monthly update from Ben. So Ben did join me for that episode. If anyone wants their monthly Defining Duke Ultimate Ben episode, we've talked about doing the Sea of Thieves episode. We had to push that back because, like I said, we wanted to get Cog's feet wet. Then we wanted to do the live call-in episode eventually. And I'm thinking that's going to come up soon within this month, because we do need to double up on Duke Ultimate episode soon for Ben's sake. So look out for that. It is indeed coming, and we know there's a demand from the audience for a little more Sea of Thieves
Shout
action.
out to Ben, Sea of Thieves. Absolutely.
Yeah. Isn't it funny that Rare is the people who make that, right? And
I know. We're going to talk about Rare.
Starts with the R, a little R.
Oh, yeah.
That's where I was going with it. You were like,
No, I didn't even catch that. That's a good point.
All right, let's get into the actual warm-up questions.
Get into it, man.
Jennifer is our first write-in. Hey, Matty and Cog. With I, the Somnium Files sequel surprisingly being announced for Xbox and other Japanese games like Blaster Master Zero Series, Ender Lilies, and Tales of Arise arriving on Xbox, do you think Microsoft's platform is finally becoming attractive to Japanese publishers? Or do you think Microsoft has to go out and convince/beg them to publish on Xbox. Great work, Matty, and thank goodness you joined the show, Cog. Where do you stand on this Japanese push from Xbox, if you will? And the reason I define it as push, that may sound like we're overdoing it, but I really have to call it that because before that it was non-existent. So something's happening. That's the difference. Thanks. So what do you make of, like, for example, Tales of Arise, I believe is the first Tales of game on Xbox since Vesperia, I want to say. So what do you think of a couple more Japanese games getting on the platform?
Love it, man. Love it. This is what I've been wanting to see. I mean, this is, I look at the PS4 generation and you look at that nice diversity of lineup of software that Japanese games always were on the platform. So, I was always kind of frustrated. Like, why can't they come to Xbox? What's the deal? Why they feel almost exclusive? And, salute to Phil and those guys really going out there, whoever the team is, that's putting the legwork out to try to get these over. And I think, it's a two-part question of what Jennifer said in reference to, they're becoming attractive to the publishers, but then also as far as like, I do think they got to do a little extra legwork, you know what I'm saying? Being the American company, going out there, you know what I'm saying, kind of thing. And the last point I'll say is, I sound like an infomercial, but Game Pass. I think that, a lot of these companies will get to see, not every game is going to be a Game Pass, but I do feel like a lot of these companies do get to see a little bit of the benefit, particularly RGG with Yakuza and those type of games, and they're starting to see the financial ramification. So I think that really helps out and sells it. But what do you think about this whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think they do have to, like you said, make a lot of extra legwork. It's clear, just as an American company, they may have to even pull out of pocket a little bit to justify these games existing. I've always been in the mindset that a lot of people wanted Xbox to go out and buy Sega or buy, we know they now have Tango Gameworks, thanks to the Bethesda deal, but go out and buy a variety of Japanese developers, CyberConnect, Bandai, go buy them. And I'm like, no one's going to sign that blood money like deal. We actually were talking about this in Defining Duke Ultimate, but I know since not everyone listens to that, I want to just say it here. Sure. Is that's like a blood money type of deal. It's like it's like taking a mobile game ad on YouTube. It's like, yeah, you're going to get your money. You're going to get paid. But who's going to be watching? Who's going to be, in this case, who's going to be playing? So I always have been of the idea of Xbox has to, because they've dug themselves into this corner, they have to take the long road and start just extracting from PlayStation. So that means the Somnium Files, get the original one on Xbox, but also getting that sequel on Xbox. Yes, like be there. Make sure it's like Nintendo with third party. A lot of people say the reason the Wii U wasn't supported, Nintendo just wasn't there with third party. They weren't working with developers, so developers weren't working with them. And then with the Switch, a large part of the turnaround was because they had great ports coming into that system. So I think Xbox just needs to attack what's there first. Get Trails of Cold Steel, get Persona, get the Somnium Files, get these indie Japanese games, get whatever CyberConnect's working on. Like, it's not always about marketing and Game Pass. It's like, just make your platform a place it's available on. Not everything has to be the big money deal. It's like, just work on having a presence there. So then you could work into your Lost Odysseys, if you will.
Absolutely. I completely agree. I think you're on fire with that. I mean, to me, it's like, I call it the street team. You got legs on the ground, boots on the ground. You really got to put in the work and stay in touch with the culture also of the studios. You know what I mean? It's so that you have an idea of what they need, what they're looking for, as opposed to just throwing a whole bunch of money at it. And like you said, not really cultivating those. You want these relationships to be long-term, not just a one-off. So I agree with you, Matty. Great point.
Yeah, I think they can sign exclusive deals to show their dedication to it. Like, I'd be surprised if Xbox didn't do something with Sega on an exclusive capacity. We saw them try it a little bit with Like a Drag, where they tried to, I don't know why I abbreviated that, by the way, Like a Drag. Like, that was just so natural. But anyway, Like a Dragon, they did the Series X version as exclusive. They had next gen first, and then PlayStation got it, I want to say in March the following year.
That's about right.
And so you have situations like that, but of course, I wouldn't be too surprised if a company like them that they're close to and Sega sees the numbers and they've been big supporters of Game Pass, maybe want to do something exclusively like a JRPG for Xbox. I would certainly like to see that, but I imagine that'll come in due time. Even when Xbox was enjoying their heyday with the 360, they weren't a prominent Japanese platform. They just had these pieces there. I don't need to go down the list like I always do, but they had these pieces there that were for people like myself and many others who enjoy those types of games. And I think as long as they get on that path, we'll be in a pretty good position, because when they're involved, you get something like a Lost Odyssey or Infinite Undiscovery. You get something very different And that's what's cool about it, because you have this American company with a lot of money and these Japanese minds. When they combine, you get something really cool. So
Absolutely. Yeah, I completely agree.
Now, of course, as a JRPG fan, I selfishly just want more.
Yes,
absolutely.
We do more. And the push that we were talking about a couple of Defiant Dukes ago about even other regions too, just like, because you want that different flavor, that different texture. Like I said, we heard things about India. We heard about, filling them, talk about other regions too. So of course, Japanese, yes, we want our JRPGs. We want everything from that, but also regions where they're not typically strong. Cultivate there, get out there, make those relationships.
Absolutely. It's such an underrated part of what this industry is all about, that relationship building. Number 2, God bless the visionary Zack Snyder writes in with a novel.
Woo.
Hey, we like our novels here. We like when the audience takes time to write in because they care about the topic.
Facts.
So, Zack Snyder honors us with a beautiful write-in about Game Pass. Hey guys, new-time patron, but long-time listener. Really enjoying the show and how easily you set up the new dynamic. Cog has found his... My question is based on something you said in the in the last episode in response to Nandin Patil's question. In the question, he asked about game pricing or Microsoft sticking at $60 and how that could be a good thing in case Game Pass continues to be unsustainable and not profitable. And you very quickly, I said, I don't think that last part will happen. And I just wanted you to expand on that if you could. So then he gets into his write-up. Do you guys think Game Pass is forever? And if it can ever get to the astronomically high numbers of subscribers required to make this service sustainable and profitable? Game Pass is a fantastic service with a value proposition that's off the charts, but it's only off the charts because Microsoft are taking such a huge loss on the service as a gamble to get it going, right? The cost of all the publishers for all of the games on Game Pass, plus those new day one games available to Game Pass subscribers, plus the loss of potential sales / profit for all of the first party games like Halo Infinite having $500 million in development costs, put the operating cost of Game Pass extremely high. Microsoft's last number of 23 million subscribers is good for a toddler age service, likely closer to 26 million after E3 and that 2022 and 2023 strong lineup. But there are a lot of people on the service who aren't paying the full price for Game Pass. People who are instead taking advantage of the constant deals on Cheez-It packets such as free codes and being able to convert 3 years of Xbox Live Gold to Game Pass for 3 years for just $1, which adds to the problem of Game Pass not being profitable. Then, with each new acquisition and each new game they score for day one on the service, that puts the goalposts of Game Pass back even further from being profitable. And all this is before I even mention anything about the utterly insane price for Bethesda's acquisition and how much that will add to the cost Game Pass needs to recover. I know Microsoft are insanely rich, but it is a business at the end of the day, not a charity. And will they just forever keep funding the service that doesn't make them money just for gamers? I'm very interested to hear if you guys think Game Pass is forever and if it can get to the astronomically high number of subscribers required to make the service sustainable. Sorry if this was too long. Keep up the fantastic work. Both of you, love you both. All right, Cog, let's dish it off to you. Is Game Pass forever? Is it sustainable?
Well, this is what Microsoft would like. Microsoft would like this to be sustainable. Microsoft would like to be the long play. This is shout out to Director's Cut Zack Snyder. At the end, look, this is a good question. He got a lot of good points. There's a lot of things, to dissect there. I think for me, listening to what he's saying, obviously it's valid concern. We don't know officially if it's profitable. We don't know the numbers being reported and stuff like that. We hear rumblings here and there that each deal is different, but long term, we would assume this is an investment initially, right? With the prospect of being something really profitable. All I'll say is this. I think for them to be that far in, there's two things that when I was analyzing this, it really surprised me. One was that I remember in the beginning when I was struggling to understand myself, I'm like, okay, how is it, they got to be bleeding money a lot, right? So how is it they're going to be able to sustain? And then one thing that I've seen a lot was that Game Pass actually helped sales of the games themselves. And that really surprised me, man. I didn't see that coming. And then I was looking at Xbox has, like the most games played. And then there's also a top paid section. In that section, I believe in the top 12, there's about 5 games right now that are in Game Pass that are the top paid games. It's Minecraft, Gang Beasts, 2K, Dead by Daylight, and I believe there's another one. But at the end of the day, I even saw this with Outriders, MLB The Show, being the top paid game. So even though people are subscribing to the service, right, people are still buying the game. That surprised me. I thought everybody was like, yo, free 99. We ain't got to buy it. You know what I'm saying? We good. You know what I'm saying? But nah, like, so this is an interesting development. That's the first thing. You know, the second thing, you know, as far as like, just in general, I think long term, yes, they want to get everybody also off of Xbox Live Gold. And to his point, you know, the $1 thing, that's a short term incentive and investment, but long term, you're going to have to pay the 15. You're going to have to get over the ultimate, you know, kind of thing. So I think that's what they're willing to do. I think how they look at it is Game Pass the long term play. They got all these Xbox Live OGs that haven't converted yet. And remember, they got lashback when they tried to up that. So I do think that their play is to get that big base over there. But there's a lot to digest, a lot of points. You know, I totally understand where he's coming from. You know, in reference to this, like, where's your mindset with Game Pass and just the profitability, sustainability, this whole bit?
Yeah, I think what's interesting is right now where everyone's so deep in that conversation that we're not even recognizing, wow, this is a service in its infancy. And we really haven't seen it reach the levels that I imagine Microsoft has laid out. You know, we always talk about it, but one day Game Pass will just be an app on a TV. Like you will see a TV in Best Buy and it will have one of those plastic little stickers and it'll say like comes with Game Pass. And you'll literally have it loaded up. And as long as you have a controller, you can play games via Game Pass through the xCloud streaming. And that's where I think you're going to get some casual subscribers where the real money is at. The people who are going to sign up, I mean, we're already signing up and forgetting about it, but the people who are truly going to sign up and just leave the subscription. I look at it this way. There's a lot of services out there that aren't great that once you get in, you're stuck. So I look at Nintendo Online as a phenomenal example. I think Nintendo Online fucking sucks. It's like it's not high. It's not good. Like I'm sorry if that's too brash, but it's just not good. Especially look at July's games. They're slapping you in the face with it. But your boy's a subscriber still. And I've been a subscriber for a while. Why is that? Because I may 1 month play Smash Online or Mario Golf Online with the buds. That's why. I barely have touched my Switch this year outside of Mario Golf. But I've been a subscriber throughout the whole year. So Nintendo's gotten, like, it's $5 a month. I mean, it's $20 a year, really. So they've gotten their $20 out of me. What do they care, right? So the way I look at it is absolutely true that once they get you in a subscription service, sometimes you just don't want to get out because you know maybe this month for some Game Pass subscribers may lull, but some people will stay subscribed for another 3 months because they know in October we got Back for Blood coming out on Game Pass. And it's like, well, at that point you've spent $45, saving 60 on the game. And I mean, it doesn't really math out right, but for Xbox, they got you in there. That's what matters to them. The reason why I'm mentioning all of this is because while Game Pass may be this up and down thing, the only thing we've really heard on the terms of profitability was Aaron Greenberg going, oh, it's not a for-profit play, which makes sense when you look how much they're spending on it. But I always say this is that I think Xbox as a whole is profitable. So their sales, their hardware, all of that combines to make Xbox a profitable entity. And that is what matters. If Game Pass is operating at a loss, it does not matter if Xbox is becoming profitable through it. So if their Game Pass service is bleeding money, but Game Pass is generating sales and making Xbox in turn a much more profitable company, that is why you're probably seeing Satya Nadella and these executives at Microsoft stepping in and going like, we believe in Xbox, and they're backing them more than they ever have. They clearly see a number that none of us have. They're not buying into the idea just and solely that. You know, of course, there is a belief in the future and they see the trajectory and go, okay, we can make a lot of money here. Of course, they're doing that. But they're seeing something now, too, that's making them all out commit. It's not just like Zack Snyder said, they are going to operate as a business. They're not a charity. So when they go and get Outriders, when they go and get these 27 day one Game Pass games, they're doing it because they see something. And I think it's because they're seeing more sales on Xbox. They're seeing more money coming through Xbox than they may have ever had. And to the point of making up the money with Xbox, while this only has to do with Microsoft, they already made double that money the quarter that they bought Bethesda as a whole. Now, while that doesn't go straight back into that bank account, that cost is already cleared. They don't need to worry about that at all. And that quarter alone, I think Xbox made like $2.5 billion on just game sales for the holiday period. So Xbox has already made up a lot of ground if we really want to simplify that. But businesses don't operate this way. It's not like you and I where I spend $60 and I'm like, all right, I'm going to flip this over here. I'm going to make that $60 back because I put something up on eBay or whatever. It just doesn't work that way. We are humans living our day-to-day lives. This is a company with a bank account that they can just be like, does this make sense for us? Because they've acquired this money over so long that if you looked, I guarantee if any of us took a look at the amount of digits that were in that bank account that are just stored there for investments that they just sit on, they could literally not print money for years and be fine and operate just running off of that. Yeah. So that's why they're able to make an investment like $7.5 billion in Bethesda, and they're able to be buyers in a buyer's market where I mean, a seller's market where things are incredibly high priced because they got the money to do it and it's not going to hurt them.
Yeah, I mean, just to add on, you're on fire as always.
Thank you.
I mean, just to add on to what you're saying, I mean, we just recently got June's NPD, and Xbox was the leader in dollar sales. You know, we saw some quarterly reports, I believe, not too long ago, where they were doing well post Bethesda acquisition. So, like you said, the fantastic point you made is that Game Pass is one component of this whole Xbox thing, and as you said, these are people, businessmen and women that are making this amount of money in this type of stratosphere high above my pay grade, right? They don't invest in something that this wholeheartedly unless they truly have some information and some data that they're sitting on that they can see the long-term play. You just don't just jump into these it's because for the will of the gamer. You know what I'm saying? Like, and don't get me wrong, it's great for gaming and it's an awesome thing, but like I always said, Phil's greatest accomplishment, in my opinion, during his regime is getting businessmen who are at Microsoft, who are not primarily Xbox, is not the driver, to get them to invest fully. That is a huge, huge deal. So to me, I'm with you, Matty. Behind the scenes, they have some trending, some data, some analytics that make them feel very confident about moving forward. Yeah. And my last point, to be funny.
All right.
Listen, if it don't work, it don't work. We benefit. That's my thing. Like all this, I don't know, Matty. I don't know if it's gonna be. But listen, I'm not saying for them to go out of business, but at the end of the day, I want to eat off of these Game Pass games. So whatever happens is the gamers win. Worry about being a gamer. Not trying to attack the listener, because shout out to you. Great question. You know what I'm saying? But just worry about being a gamer. Just enjoy what's coming and how we're benefiting as a result.
I 100,000% agree with you, man. Especially, we'll get into our first bit of news soon, and it touches on that, where it was a piece of news that's cool. It's worth talking about. But there were people who were like ear to ear smiling over it. Like, they work at Xbox. And I'm like, look, man, I want Xbox to succeed because I like them as a brand. I love what they're doing. I love the people behind it. They don't seem fake. They seem authentically invested, and they're doing stuff that's saving me money. Like, that's they're checking all the boxes. All right. But if they start to stumble a little bit, or if they're not profitable, like, it's no skin off my back. I don't care. It's the same thing with all these companies. I don't care about Nintendo. I don't care about PlayStation. Do right by me, the consumer. You're in my good graces. That's all there is to it. And it should be that way for everyone. We don't need to bend over backwards for our corporations. But to wrap this up, is Game Pass forever? I think that's a good way to end it is they probably, if they're buying into anything invisible, it's where they see the industry ending up in maybe a decade, right? It's going to be cloud-based. It's going to be streaming-based. Internet's going to be advanced. And Microsoft will be front runners because they have invested so early. We're already seeing that tech in use now. You can stream to your iPad, iPhone, Android devices. Soon we'll see it on TVs with apps. And they're going to be there where PlayStation does not have that infrastructure. And they really need to double down in the console space. Like, here's why you need a console, where Xbox is going to be all over the place. Agreed. And so I think that's the major difference maker. Is we're not at that point now where we're going to see what Microsoft is anticipating, at least.
Valid points, man. Well said.
Thank you. Excellent question. Thank you for writing in, Zack Snyder. Dominic Brandt writes in as well. Hello, gentlemen. I'm really enjoying this new dynamic with Matty and Lord Cognito. My question is mostly aimed at Cog in an effort to get to know him and his tastes more, but I'd love to hear Matty chime in too. Now, here's the thing. If you know me, you already know the answer to this question, so I may not even answer it. I want to see if the audience actually knows me. What are some of your favorite Star Wars games? Beyond the big titles like Battlefront and Lego Star Wars, are there any forgotten gems from the 90s or 2000s that you adore? Love the show. Keep up the great work. I'm curious about your answer as well, Cog. What is you a Star Wars gamer at all, actually?
I'm really not.
Oh, okay.
But, I've played, so obviously, the KOTOR stuff comes out to mind. Of course. Like, come on. Like, you don't mention that. It's like, come on. So that's like God tier. You know what I'm saying? As far as what they were doing. Come on. The Dukes, baby. We're here. So it's like, look, what BioWare was doing at that time was just outstanding, man. Like, just totally, going to the dark side, the chase, the changes, the dialogue. It was truly ahead of its time. And it's BioWare at its core. I'll give out some shout outs to some other little ones. I remember the Super NES ones, man.
Okay.
Back in the day, the Super Star Wars, Return of the Jedi. Like, back then, from a tech standpoint, those games are pretty impressive because one thing that I was a big fan of Super Nintendo was this thing called Mode 7, the scaling ability. And at the time, Genesis really didn't have the technology, and those games had it, and it was really cool. And the last one I'll say is fairly recent. Jedi Fallen Order, man.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, it was, and again, I'm Team Respawn, so I was curious to see how this was gonna go.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, yo, they pulled this off. This is really cool. Like, again, the streak continues. I still feel they haven't made a whack game. So
I agree. I agree. They're 3 for 3 in my eyes.
Yeah,
right?
They're 3 for 3 for me too. But what about you? You are the guy.
I am the KOTOR guy.
Yes.
Dude, holy shit. Oh my God. Yeah, this is my favorite game of all time. Not even because it's Star Wars, but when I was really young, I didn't like Star Wars or really care for it at all. KOTOR is what got me to care about Star Wars. And what's kind of sad about it is my favorite part of the universe really is just dead and gone right now. Like, it will return. I know as much. It will return, but it's going to take some time. I got to be patient. And I've been patient for, I don't know how long I'll live, but maybe a quarter of my life, maybe half my life. Who knows, right? But yeah, KOTOR is the bee's knees for me. Not even just as a favorite Star Wars game, but a favorite game of all time.
Yeah.
Just top tier. And just you touched on all the points I would have touched on. The dialogue is excellent. The party members, the level design, it was the core of why I fell in love with hub-based content. I think it's just the best way to deliver an experience. Open worlds are great. I love open worlds. But what I learned in those like 2013 to 15 stretch where we were really getting hit over the head with new open world games every year was these are great, but there's something more nice and fun to dissect with a game that has very intrinsically designed hubs, and you can get intimate with certain levels, and they're very diverse. I think of games like Dishonored as if anyone wants a more modern example. There's just something that's more appealing because you can cram more into it and do more different things. You're not accounting for a whole world space, but that doesn't make open worlds less impressive. Right. Other than that, I can't really add much to this list because we've already touched on Battlefront, Lego Star Wars. These are goats. I will throw out an underrated one though. One of my favorite Star Wars games of all time is on the Game Boy Advance and the DS. Star Wars Episode 3.
Really?
One of the best side scrollers I've ever played. Absolutely. Yeah, it's amazing, man. It's why it's my favorite era of gaming, because you look at the Episode 3 tie-in game and it's typical tie-in movie game. It's got some good elements there. People like it because it's like, whoa, this is actually not bad. And then you look at the Game Boy Advance and DS counterpart, and it's this totally different game, like from combat to force abilities to level design, presentation, just everything about it is different because it was completely more inferior tech, but there was such a large player base that they had to make a game for it.
Right.
And they hit a home run. It was a really good game. It was a strong side scroller. So check that out if you haven't. But
yeah, absolutely. That sounds pretty cool.
Absolutely. All right. Number 4 comes from Mark Grouch. Hey, Duke boys, been listening since episode 0, and I figured I'd finally write in. Well, thank you so much for doing that. Couple episodes back, Rare Replay was selected as the Game Pass pick of the week. Since then, I've been moseying through it on my Series X and at least trying every game. I've beaten Battletoads with the help of the rewind feature. You and I both. You can't do it without it. You can't convince me otherwise. Yeah, you cannot convince me otherwise, man. Banjo-Kazooie and Tooie, Perfect Dark, Conker's Bad Fur Day, and Jet Force Gemini. These games are awesome, and I wouldn't have experienced them without the recommendation. So thank you. It's our pleasure. That's why we have this segment. I love hearing when people try out our Game Pass picks, right?
Yeah, that's dope.
However, I think I've made it to the Xbox era, and I must say the whiplash of going from Conker to Grabbed by the Ghoulies is an experience I wouldn't wish on anyone. So this brings me to my question. Do you think Rare has or ever will reach the height of 1990s Rare again? Thanks, and COG kicks ass.
Oh, salute.
Mark, let's go.
Much love, Mark. Yeah, listen, this is a tough one because, man, 90s Rare, like, bro, they were like, everything they touched was like on fire. Like, now it's just, in their credit, I wasn't a Sea of Thieves guy. I'm not. Sorry, Ben. I apologize. But, you know what I'm saying? At the end of the day.
He's going to leave in a couple more stutters now.
I know, right? You're going to mute this. But at the end of the day, it's like, look, man, I recognize the success. I recognize the appeal. And to see it grow into this thing and the legs that it has. You see the Pirates, thing. We streamed it. The Lords and I streamed it. Shout out to Attic King and the Solve. We had a blast. I can't. I did have fun. It's like I got my R on. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, like it was fun. To me, the only reason why I'm a little concerned because I just don't want them. They've got the success that I know they have to cultivate, funnel, and keep on with it and iterate. But I also want some of that classic Rare feel. I want some of that. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, like when I first saw Everwild, I'm like, okay, what's this? It's looking okay, looking cool. I don't know what it is,
right?
But it looks cool. But then reports come out and, they may be going back to the drawing board or, kind of thing. So then it gets me to worry again. And my main thing, Matty, I just don't want them to be this one trick pony with just Sea of Thieves. And I would love to see some other things from them. But, where you at, man? Can they get back to their, 90s feel?
Yeah, so I'm actually scrolling through some of their games now because I admit I'm not like this big Rare fan because I was born in 95. So, by the time I really started gaming was on the N64. So I've, of course, experienced some of their games like, Donkey Kong 64 is one of my favorites. I love that game. They made that. But I'm a weird Rare fan. Like one of my favorite games from them, I experienced it for the first time on Rare Replay. And when I learned it released in 1999, I was kind of blown away by it. Now, granted, it was from the benefit of the Rare Replay package because you were able to augment the controls, but that was Jet Force Gemini. I just thought that game was ahead of its time. It played like a true third-person shooter, which maybe isn't spectacular nowadays, but for a game in 1999, which was made on the N64, the most awkward controller ever envisioned, I mean, dude, this thing looked like a steering wheel. It was weird.
Shout out to the Batarang.
Yeah, it's actually a way better way to put it. Dude, that controller is wild, and they made a shooter on it. And they made GoldenEye, which is one of the most famous shooters of all time. Mm-hmm. I know that Carrick was a big fan of Viva Pinata.
Yes,
I know a lot of people love Viva Pinata. It's one of my rare blind spots. So I got to get on that. So just to recount that history a little bit, can they get back to those 90s days? I think part of it's impossible, not because they're not talented enough to, but because people have set the standard, right?
Yeah.
It's like me. Part of why I like BioWare a lot more nowadays was letting go that they're not going to be the BioWare who dropped Jade Empire, KOTOR, and Dragon Age Origins within like the same 5-year window, plus Mass Effect. Sorry, I almost forgot the GOAT, right? Like in that window, they dropped all of those amazing RPGs. That's never going to happen again. That doesn't mean what they can do now, though, with a new Dragon Age game, with the new Mass Effect, can be bad, though. It's just games are made differently now. Mm-hmm. BioWare's not hopefully as much of a crunch nowadays compared to what they were, especially as of recently with Andromeda and Anthem. But the reason I bring them up is just you look at that as, for me personally, as a company, I'm like, man, will they ever get back to that golden days? And it's like, well, maybe they won't, but they can still be very good.
Yes.
And represent the era strongly. And that's all you can really ask for, because it was a different set of talent, different group of people there. And so everyone thinks and operates differently. So I think Rare can be, I don't think that's the thing. A lot of people want them, they're in such an interesting position, right? Because they're not doing horrible.
Right.
They're doing quite well.
Yes.
They've made a successful service game. There's nothing like Sea of Thieves.
Nothing.
They made a great compilation package in Rare Replay. Everwild's in some trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We can't really speak to that, but they're not in a bad position, but people want them so badly to go back to this era. And I'm like, well, if they were like Konami and they were just out of left field, man, they were just like doing healthcare and gyms, I'd be like, all right, yeah, you want your Rare healthcare plan? I was like, all right, yeah, maybe we want them to come back, but like they're fine. So I don't know. I'm not challenging Mark, by the way. I want to make it clear. I don't have an issue with this question. I'm more so saying a lot of people say this, and I'm like, why do people want so badly? I really shouldn't even ask because I know why, but it's more so, why isn't there acceptance of like, hey, they're good right now. They're good.
I mean, in Mark's defense and people of that ilk, I mean, I'm trying to equate it to something I would relate to. Like, let's use the BioWare example, right? That you used. You know, I love classic BioWare, right? And like you've grown to be infatuated with those games. So when you see, you know, a studio like BioWare and then Anthem happens, you know what I'm saying? And then, like, you know what I mean? It could not, granted, that hasn't happened to Rare. Rare, like you said, has been successful, whatever. But I think you answered it before, which is, this stuff is cyclical, and the talent that was there might not be the same talent all the way that's there now. And that it could be like just people move. The in-games industry is very, very fluid. And I think that also has a lot to do with it as well. Because again, like for Mass Effect, you know, a lot of those core people, they're not there.
No,
it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know if that's exactly the case with Rare, but I'm just assuming that maybe there is some turnover and people just struggle, you know, with the change in direction. And in their defense, I get it if they made beloved franchises that they're not even talking about and going back to. I can understand. I can be empathetic towards that to some extent.
I think they're in the same boat that Rockstar is in, that From Software is, funny enough, and Bethesda Game Studios to some example now with Starfield in the mix, if people end up liking that, which is just, this is a company that's toyed around with so many IP and done such a great job with so many of them that you're going to get fans all over the place for different products. And they're all like, you're going to have little slivers who want a new Banjo, a new Viva Pinata, a new Perfect Dark, as we're now seeing with the Initiative. But you're seeing all these IP that people want more of. And I totally get that. New Battletoads, we got that. And I think Xbox is doing an all right job with it, but there are still so many that lie dormant that people want to see resurrected once again. And I just don't think Rare could handle all of them. And they're not that freelancer company that's doing a bunch of odd jobs for companies now. They're owned by Xbox. So I think having those Rare IP is excellent news, a good chunk of them at least, where Xbox can do what they've been doing, which is hand them out to other developers to try to do something with them. So at least fans are getting something.
Yeah.
Anyway, great question, Mark. Thank you for writing in. Last intro question, and we're going to talk a little bit about Death's Door and then get into the news. Cole Helgerson. Hey, Matty and Cog. I recently finished a playthrough of the original Psychonauts on PC and was absolutely taken aback by its charm, clever writing, and surprisingly fun gameplay for a game that was released in 2005. My question is this. Do you think Psychonauts 2 could be Xbox's Ratchet and Clank in the terms of a fun, kid-friendly platformer that is also a mascot for the future? I understand that Psychonauts 2 won't reach the graphical standard of the most recent Ratchet and Clank, but it could surpass it in the writing and plot category. Thanks for the great show every week. Our pleasure, Cole. So I recently previewed this one, Con.
Let's go.
Yeah, laid my hands on it.
Talk to us. Exclusive. Mr. Exclusive.
I know, right? I was really shocked when Xbox reached out. I was like, wow, okay, I guess they're listening or something.
See, look who's not invisible. I told you, you a beast, bro. You are a beast. Continue.
You, thank you.
No doubt.
So Psychonauts 2 is as a mascot, it's tough because we're already on the second entry. You know, there's such a big 16-year gap between the two. One was exclusive, one was not. And then maybe they do a third one, who knows? I will say though, I can already tell just by my preview, and this is no disrespect to Ratchet and Clank because I think it's a phenomenal game.
Oh, we doing that.
But I will say with Cole, on a writing and plot standpoint, Psychonauts is already infinitely more interesting. Now, I have a vested interest in mental health. I do have that. There's a pretty core theme to Psychonauts, and I think it's very interesting, and it's because of the wit that they tackle it with. it's on the nose, but it's also very clever.
Right.
And so that speaks to me a little bit more. So keep that in mind as I go
Ooh,
on. But but the writing is really, it's funny. I don't know how else to define it. It's because what I found interesting, I said this in my preview, is a lot of people called Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart a Pixar game.
Right.
It's Pixar from top to bottom. It looks like a Pixar game. It talks like one. It acts like one. The fidelity, yeah, man. Beautiful game. For me, I said this before I played Psychonauts, so people know I'm not out here just parading around in the Xbox
You
banner.
got your Xbox jersey on. Yeah. You win
it. I said afterwards when I finished it and platinumed it, I thought Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart was a Pixar movie in looks only. Its writing and its story, its charm did not grab me. And that's as a lifelong Ratchet fan who has played each to completion. I adore that series. Did not really grab me with any charm or character interactions quite like I think they wanted to. Psychonauts 2, however, did grab me in that way. So I think there's something there worth talking about.
Okay.
Yeah. But before I ramble on any further, I just want to check your interest on Psychonauts 2. A lot of previews came out. I wasn't the only one to lay my hands on it. I don't know if you tapped into them at all or if you just heard word of mouth.
I got the streets talking.
All right.
I'm glad you said what you said because, that's literally what I've been hearing. Mm-hmm. It's been extremely positive. And, excuse me. And basically it was like one of those pleasant surprises. And to your point, are they saying graphical fidelity is messing with Ratchet or stuff like that? No, they're not going there. But the vibe I'm hearing from multiple people is like, yo, Xbox may have one here that is an underrated gem. You know what I'm saying? So I'm hearing a lot of good things. Shout out to Double Fine. That again, clever. What you just said. The clever writing and unique. So that kind of stuff appeals to me. To be honest, like I didn't really grow with the series. I'm new, and I even asked, like, would it be a situation that if I didn't play the first, I'll be messed up. And I was told that's not the case. Right. Yeah. So for me, that really appeals to me. And I'm excited. And I want to see what the genius of Schaefer and you know what I'm saying? Like what they cooking. So I'm hearing the same things that you putting out, man.
Yeah. And I know this will sound funny to people who've been longtime viewers of me, where I sit here and champion the likes of Danganronpa when I say, to me, Psychonauts 2 from the outside, I'm like, this is just a weird, trippy 3D platformer. But then you get your hands on it. And really what piqued my interest before even that was when I was watching the Xbox Gameplay Showcase Extended, hosted by Paris Lilly. Shout out to Paris. And when they were talking about Psychonauts 2, Tim Schafer was getting into some of the themes of the game. And I was listening to him and I'm thinking to myself, wow, this is a more serious game underlying than I thought. And so that grabbed my interest, where when they reached out for a preview opportunity, I thought, hey, you know what? I do really want to check this out. I do want to see what it's all about. And it makes sense because in Psychonauts, you're diving into people's brains, and the way they thematically line up the level design, where it's interesting to look at and explore and interact with your powers, while also fitting the things that that the people you're exploring are going through, makes sense. And then when you combine that with the enemy types, I was talking a little bit about it in my preview. There are enemies named sensors, doubts, regrets, bad ideas.
Nice. Yeah. This is fire. Now we get into the meta. Okay.
The collectibles are figments, like figments of your imagination. Half a mind. I mean, it just goes on.
Clever.
Man. Yeah.
Sounds clever.
Emotional baggage. It's right. It's clever in the way where you're like, oh, it's cute. But then like you start to get into it and you start to like go through a memory vault, right? And you start to see their backstory and you're like, oh man, that's kind of sad. And then you see what they've gone through as a character. But the animation too kind of reminded me of a TT game, Lego series. It was a little choppy, but it was not lifelike. It brought life to the character in the right way. It brought expression. It's a really well-made game so far. I was impressed by it. So I'm very excited for the final release. And while it may not end up being a mascot, I think it could be a really big, important component to what Xbox offers, which, they're lacking these types of games.
Yeah, absolutely. And kudos to Microsoft. I believe they kind of helped them with getting over the finish line and stuff like that. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I can't wait. You got me excited.
Awesome.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it comes out August 25th. So just about a month from now. All right. Before we get into news, let's talk Death's Door. So this is the newest Xbox exclusive. It's a great month for Xbox indies. If you're a Game Pass subscriber, Chris Tales came out the same day. We'll talk about that a little bit later for Game Pass pick of the week. I'll let you know that right now. We got Death's Door coming out exclusively at $20. It's on your Xbox One, Series, consoles, and PC. And then later on, we've got The Ascent coming out. So it's a good time to be involved in the Xbox indie scene. Both you and I picked this up. I didn't get a review copy. You did not. We sat down. We played it last night. What did you think of Death's Door so far? How deep are you?
About three hours in, doing some exploration. You know, it's one of those things that I have my eye on it when I remember seeing it at the indie showcase. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, let's see what's going on with this bird with the sword and the thing and whatever. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, all right, let me check it out. So here we go. When I first started it, I felt it was very minimalist. I was like, okay, what's going on here? I was a little annoyed slightly just because I wanted more exposition, more narrative aspect on it. But, you know, kept going, kept trudging my way on, seeing what's going on. Right on. Started going into the world, start exploring. And then I'm like, okay, I'm liking the ambiance. I'm liking the feel. Music is really good. Really like the music. Yes, very much so, bro. I'm there with you on the music. And then I got suckered in a good way.
Okay.
So I'm going along with it. I'm learning basic mechanics. And then I get to this castle thing. And I'm like, oh, this is some 2D Dark Souls type situation. Like, this is mechanics. I'm like, and mind you, I'm not the Souls guy, but I'm like, oh my God, this game got me sweat. Okay, let me get into it. Let me get the flows, the patterns, whatever. You know, I brought the old school skills out, but I was like, just to get past, bro. I was just like, oh man, I see the game. I didn't know it was about that.
Yeah,
right.
Neither did I. Yeah.
I was just like, oh, cute bird, exploration, whatever. Nah, fam, you're going to have to get busy. You're going to know these patterns. You're going to know what's going on. It's on. And I'm like, yo. And I got to another point, and then the world started to open up more and truly then start to explain itself and was like, okay, now the game is beginning. And I'm like, oh. So yeah, early impressions. Really, really surprising little gem here. I'm going to tell you this. People who love Souls games are gonna love this game. I think it has way more depth. I'm gonna ask you how many hours you're in, what's going on. I'm assuming you're farther than me. And shout out to my boy Addict. He's like towards the end, I believe. He streamed it on Iron Lord's podcast. He's a beast. Let me tell you, that kid is a savant. Like, we call him difficult game conqueror for real. Shout out to Addict. He's a beast.
Absolutely.
Me, I'm over here, the first little boss with the castle. I'm over here sweating, dying for my life for this thing. But anyway, I'm adding to you, Matty. Like, where are you at? How many hours did you put in, and what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I've put about 4 or 5 hours in, so I'm only a little bit ahead of you, I'd say. I'm about to, for those who have been playing the game, this is not spoilery, but I'm about to get my second Great Soul.
Okay.
So we're getting there. We conquered one region. We're into our second. We're at the end. It was getting late. I was like, all right, let's lie this down. Yeah. For reference, there's 3 total Great Souls you acquire, and then I don't know what really happens after that. Right. But anyway, it's funny you mentioned the first thing you said was it's very minimalist, right? I did a video on it. I'm waiting for an advertiser to approve it so I can post it. What I love about this game is it proves that minimalist design can be as effective as complexity if you are putting it in the right hands. So in the case of Death's Door, it's art style, it's combat, it's writing, it's level design. It's all very simplistic. Like, what I mean is level design are cells. You know, they're pretty standard squares. But it's what you're doing within them, like the light puzzles, whether you're lighting fires or you're using your bombs to get through walls. And the combat, it's not a lot of inputs and combos. It's a roll button, an attack button, a range attack.
Yeah.
But it's the enemy design that reflects that almost like a mirror, which makes you act and sweat, where you got to be precise. You got to know timing. You got to know all the different attacks. And there are certain weaknesses that you could target, but that's really not the core of it. It's really simple. The writing, like Cog said, they don't hit you with exposition. They just drop you off a bus and off you go, man. Off you go. First boss fight's in like 10 minutes. See you there. And they kick your ass, right?
Yes.
And you can be in first try if you want. But what I'm saying is just from top to bottom, the game is very minimalistic. Art style, I said that too. doesn't splash you with a million colors. I mentioned Chris Tale. I think it's just a great comparison as a game that came out that's vibrant, bright, and it's beautiful, right, for it. But this game has maybe like a 4 color palette per area. Like it doesn't do a lot,
right?
Which is not a bad thing. It fits the design of the overall game, which is just very minimalist. I think it's its biggest strength. So I'm really liking Death's Door. One of my favorite games of the year so far. Really, really liking it.
Nice.
It's been a pretty slow year for me. Like I think of Hitman 3 and then it's just like whoop, off the cliff it goes for me. Like it's just, I can't think of many others that have really resonated with me. This is one of those games where I'm like, this is good. I like Zelda, right? And I think it's an easy comparison here. I think because of the puzzles, the dungeon design, the off the beaten path exploration, the abilities you get. I like Zelda. I think it's a good series, but it never really fully clicked with me. Like I envy my girlfriend so much. She friggin' loves Zelda, man. She like throws 90 hours into Breath of the Wild in a couple of weeks, and she's just like, oh my God, this game is incredible. Like I was just exploring and petting dogs and collecting food. I'm like, why can't I be you? I want to know what that feels like to love Zelda that much. But it just clicks with certain people. Yeah. Right. And this game takes a lot of elements from Zelda and then, it actions it up a little bit. And that speaks to me more. And I think it speaks to Cog more. And, that's what I think this game's really working well for me. And it's also bite size. It's, what I've heard, what I've read, and what I'm seeing based on my progress. It's probably a 8 to 12 hour game tops, depending on how much off the beaten path exploration you do. But so far, it has been excellent, in my opinion. Yeah. Only $20, so well worth the dive.
Oh, yeah. And I believe designed by 2 people?
Oh, now that I didn't know. That's wild. Yeah,
that's insane. So that was impressive just to see that scope. And then the other thing is, there's one character I kind of faced early that I thought was the most disrespectful thing I've ever seen. So you get to the character, and it's like, you're the bringer of souls. You're the reaper. And he's like, I need you to kill me so I've lived a great life. Do your thing. So he's like, yo, hit me and let's get this over with. So I'm like, all right, bang. Oh, yeah, I've always had this problem. Sorry, you're just not strong enough to kill me. And it's woe is me for being so strong and powerful that you can't inflict any damage on me. And I'm like, really, my dude? Like, it was so funny. I was like, it was the most polite disrespect.
Yeah. It's like, it's not on you, man. Like, he's like, this has happened before. Yeah. I was like, wow. He literally goes, come back when you're a little stronger. I'm like, all right. And you just like put your hands in your pockets and walk away. You're like, all right, man, I guess.
You put the hands in the pocket and walk off. I was like, damn. But yeah, the game is very underrated. I must admit, I'm going to stick with it. Mm-hmm. And very impressed. I'm glad, we talked and I was like, oh yeah, it came out. Let me get a chance to put it to its pace. But yeah, man, fun game, man.
Yeah, that's the good wrapping up point, at least for me, is sticking with it, right? There have been games I've played that I'm like, I've just been on an average streak, right? Like I've just been playing games that been all right. And that's okay because, then you know what you like and you don't like, and it helps you with future things, and especially in our field of coverage. Oh. But, you just want to like something, right? And so for me, a real testament to that is when you can just plant your ass in the chair and you're there, man. You're there and you're gaming. And this is what this game did. It was very hard to put down. Yeah. So it's got a good pace to it. It's got a really good pace to it.
Last little plug, I got to salute the home team. Right. I want to shout out my guy, Gene. He's got a great view on lordsofgaming.net because he actually sold me on it on his review. And as far as the control and everything he has issue with, but everything he liked about it. And when I read it, I was like, I think I'm going to be able to get into it. So salute to them.
Nice. All right, so that's Death's Door and our thoughts on it. Now, after all of that, let's get into the news. Got a decent amount this week. Number 1. June 2021 was the highest total hardware dollar sales for the games industry at $401 million since 2008's $617 million. In the United States, Xbox comes out on top depending how you look at it. Matt Piscadella of the NPD Group says, quote, Xbox Series X and S was the best-selling hardware platform in dollar sales for the month of June, while Nintendo Switch led in unit sales. June dollar sales of Xbox set a new record for the Xbox platform, besting the previous high set in June 2011. PlayStation 5 remains the fastest unit-selling console hardware platform in U.S. history for lifetime sales through 8 months on market, excluding portables, end quote. Separately, the UK's GfK, which is known as Growth from Knowledge, where they use AI to track real-time statistics on consumer products, states that 183,000 consoles were sold in the UK throughout the prior 4 weeks, ending on July 3rd. PS5 was the best-selling console, although stock levels were a little bit lower compared with the previous 4-week period. Xbox Series S and X were the second best-selling set of consoles, followed by the Nintendo Switch. Nintendo and Xbox's machines both sold better in June compared to May, which I think reflects a little bit of E3, I would say.
Yes, I would agree.
So this was the news I was talking about, where I saw some Xbox fans really like, yeah, let's like, they were really like,
I know some.
Yeah. Like they, you check that Microsoft payroll, you're like, you on this again? Just so
shout out to King. Shout out to him. Put in work.
I love King, but no disrespect to him. What do you make of Xbox coming out on top for one of the months?
I mean, this is really cool. I mean, I you know what it is? I look at it, and we were talking about Game Pass earlier, right? Mm-hmm. And the way I look at it is Ratchet won sales for the month from a software standpoint, right? Tremendous title. Okay, we get it. Xbox really didn't have any major exclusive,
they had
right?
Nothing in June, yeah.
Exactly. So
July was their month.
To me, I think it's a combination of things. It's what you said. I think the E3 effect also. They had a decent E3, gets excitement in the base, get people excited about the brand.
Right.
But one would imagine Game Pass has to attribute somewhat to this success, because what is driving the sales? You know what I'm saying? Let's be real. So you got that. And then in defense of everyone else too, I do think with COVID and the shortages and like at this point, you got to have stuff available. So if they were able to have more available, that could factor in. But I don't want to take away from the fact that they didn't really have a major exclusive that month, and they are winning in dollar sales. So to me, again, we're talking about that long-term play stuff we were talking about earlier with Game Pass. If you said it best, if overall Xbox does better, right, and they're quote unquote losing money short term with Game Pass, but overall the bigger pie gets better, then isn't that the end game? Doesn't Xbox want this? So yeah, I think it's an interesting development. It's worth tracking moving forward. Also, where do you wrap your head around this thing, man?
I'm not saying you do care. I don't really care, and the reason I say I don't care is because this isn't to me particularly telling until both consoles have enough stock where you can kind of pull up to Walmart, Best Buy, what have you, and you can just grab one off the shelf. Then we'll know what's in more demand. Right now, I think it might be a situation where some people already got their PS5 and they're moving on the Xbox now. I think it might also be a situation where PS5 is not available as easily. Xbox is looking good. And some people, even our own audience, has written in pretty frequently saying, I got an Xbox because I couldn't get a PS5, and actually I couldn't be happier because of it, because of Game Pass. So almost the way PlayStation is selling benefits Xbox. And as you said, and as I said, as long as they're profitable, they don't really care. They don't need to get in this race, this pissing contest, because honestly, there's more growth in that future that I think they're eyeing down. We'll see if it actually is achieved or not, but I think they see more there. So for me, it's like, I think it's great to see because it shows that I think E3 still has an impact. I think that's sort of the underlying story here, because PlayStation did not have E3. They had a state of play in July. And there's no disrespect to what they showed there. But in June, Xbox came out. I think they had the best conference out of all the shows that were there.
For sure.
Their show led in value, saying, hey, 27 out of 30 games here on Game Pass. Here's a bunch of exclusives. Here's what 2022 looks like. You start to see what that Bethesda deal does for them, where their 2022 isn't looking too hot if you don't have Redfall and Starfield sitting right there.
Right.
You start to see the plan coming together, and then you look beyond that into 2023. I don't think many people are buying a console just for 2023. There is time in between now and the end of 2022 to make that money if you bought a PS5 and then get your Xbox afterwards, if you're able to. But I do think that their game plan worked, and I think it sparked some sales. And they're selling every console that they say they put on in stock, which just gets me to my other point, is that Xbox just may have had more stock this month compared to PlayStation, right?
It could literally be that as well, too. Absolutely.
Yeah, it really could be, because both these manufacturers, of course, PlayStation being the fastest unit selling console hardware in U.S. history, they're selling everything they got.
Oh, yeah.
right? And then you got Xbox, who is saying the same thing. They say any Xbox console we put out sells immediately. And we see that, right? Our audience struggles to get their hands on them, even though they want to get it. It's a little bit easier, don't get me wrong, but they're selling out. So maybe this is just a month where Xbox had better stock than PlayStation. It was just that simple. So that's why I don't want to get ahead of it, but I think it's worth highlighting, worth talking about, certainly worth tracking.
Absolutely.
Number 2, easily the thing we got the most write-ins about. This is where our show, us recording on Wednesdays, it worked against us this time. Usually we got the good lucky Wednesdays where Xbox draws something at like afternoon Wednesday right before we record. This time it was Valve, and it was a little bit after the fact, but we're going to talk about it anyway because it's too significant to ignore. After a tease of Gabe Newell at a university in New Zealand, yes, really, Valve has entered the console market in a meaningful way. Introducing the Steam Deck, what is described as a PC in the palm of your hands, it boasts a familiar Nintendo Switch form factor and dock with specs similar to the power of a PlayStation 4 or Xbox One S. Those specs are an AMD APU, which is the CPU of a Zen 2 4-core, 8-thread, 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz. It has an 8 RDNA to CUS GPU at 1.0 to 1.66 gigahertz. I'm sorry, 1.6, not 1.66. And then it's got 16 gigabytes of RAM, and depending on the version you get, your storage space and type of storage will vary. We'll talk about it in a second.
Yes.
The console comes loaded with trackpads that the player can use for added precision if they like. It also comes with a Steam OS baked in, meaning you have immediate access to the entirety of your Steam library from the get-go. Interestingly, Valve made it very clear that the OS could be wiped and allow access to other storefronts such as Epic's. Currently, 3 models are announced and each come packaged with a carrying case. So for $400, you can get a 64 gigabyte hard drive alongside your Steam Deck. Then at $529, you get a 256 gigabyte SSD, which allows for faster storage, but you got to pay a little bit more. Then the premium model is $649. It's 512 gigabyte SSD, comes with a premium anti-glare etched glass. And of course, you get your carrying case. You get your Steam community profile bundle. You get an exclusive virtual keyboard theme. Battery life is a present worry, as Valve themselves stated that it can go from 2 to 8 hours depending on what you're doing. Limiting the 2011 Portal 2 to 30 FPS can allow you to play 5 to 6 hours before it dies, which doesn't speak too well to much more demanding video games. According to SteamDB creator Pavel Dejunik, over 110,000 pre-orders were placed across North America, the UK, and the EU, and this doesn't include sales for the cheapest version of the new handheld. Wow. The 512 gigabyte model of Steam Deck accounted for 71,600 of those pre-orders, with 55,000 of those coming from North America. 33,000 pre-orders went to the 265 gigabyte model, with 28,000 of those from North America. Reservations are all over the place for the highly anticipated hardware, with order availability going as deep as Q3 2022. Currently, the first slate of units are set to ship December 2021. Now we get into our first write-in. Jeremy's Bugles. Hey, Dukers. With the Steam Deck announcement out of the way, I wanted to recall a comment the CEO of Valve, Gabe, made when he was at a university in New Zealand. When specifically asked if Steam would ever make its way to consoles, Gabe replied, "We'll have more on that later this year." So, is the Steam Deck what he was referring to, or will there be more? I know Microsoft has been very vocal about getting Xbox Game Pass / streaming out on as many devices. So, perhaps there will be more on that front specifically for the Deck. Or maybe just we're in for some sort of Steam hooks into the Xbox OS itself. Discuss. All right. A lot there. We can get into the question as soon as you'd like, but I just want to know your general thoughts on Steam Deck.
Bro, super excited.
Same.
Pumped. Saw your video. Yeah, look, I'm a handheld guy. That's my lifestyle. Like, bro, like we're here. Like we could do a handheld podcast one time.
Absolutely.
Bro, I'm all for that. So, like, for me, as a person who travels, who's on the go, who's on the planes, you know, we're going to be out there that last day of media event. And if the deck was available, your boy would bust that thing out on the plane. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's me. I'm that guy. I have to be gaming. I get FOMO when I'm away from home and the console, and I need to continue.
Yes.
I'm the guy. So for me, it's Steam Deck, the X screen thing for the S. Like, I'm already planning how I continue games when I'm at home. So yeah, and then, you know, with this, you know, it's a PC. It's so cool, you know, and the flexibility, the touchpad to kind of get the precise things like a mouse, and you know, I just love the flexibility of the device. And you know, last part I'll say, as far as the OS situation, I love the flexibility that we're not forced into Steam OS, because me personally, I have dreams. We talked about an Xbox handheld. I have dreams of a local Xbox Game Pass device. So if that is to be the case, then Steam OS might have to be removed and Windows 11 will be put in there so that I can do what I need to do, because I'm excited at the potential of it. Now, to the question, I'll just real quick, and I'm headed back over to you. I think it would be in both parties' best interests to play nice. I personally think, one, Microsoft titles have been doing fantastic on Steam, right? Since they got out of their feelings with their own little dedicated Microsoft store and said, look, let's put these over there. We see Sea of Thieves. We see Flight Simulator. We see Grounded. We see all these things, top of this thing, Halo. You know what I mean? The PC players want to pay for these games on Steam, right? So you got that. And then it's like, if you're Microsoft, why not let them do the legwork? Let them do the hardware, and you play nice and integrate it into the OS. So I'm super pumped, super excited, handing it off to my man. How we feeling about this Steam Deck?
Just like you, my excitement almost goes beyond Steam, right? Like, it's amazing. It's a PC that's portable. It looks and seems to feel like a Switch, albeit a little heavier. But to me, the appeal is wiping that bad boy and then doing emulation.
Oh, I didn't even talk. Facts.
Emulation, man. Like, I look at these, you know, because as a retro gamer, I look at, you know, these makeshift PS2 portables that people make where they literally have like this fat disk drive in the back. And it's amazing. These are like works of art, man, because it's like, wow, you figured it out somehow. You makeshifted a PS2 and then a screen on front, and somehow you got it working. But now that can be put behind us, right? Now you can take those games, you can emulate them on this Steam Deck, and you can do net play, and now you can get those couch co-op experiences again in the best way imaginable. To me, that is tremendously exciting. So that's number one. Number two is, I don't do PC gaming all that often because I'm always at my PC for work.
Me too.
So now I'm able to actually say, hey, I'm going to actually go PC game somewhere else. I'm actually able to do that. For me, consoles are infinitely more appealing because I'm always planted at a PC. There's just that. You learn more and more as you listen to more creators. If you haven't heard it here, you'll hear it somewhere else. We like to have our work and luxury separation.
I'm the same way.
Gotta be there.
I'm with you.
Now we can access those PC games in a new, unique way. Of course, number three, the potential of Game Pass being on this thing. I mean, it should work on there with the Xbox app, and that will be excellent. I'm curious to see how games run when they're not off of Steam OS and optimized that way, where it's just running straight off the hardware, how that changes things. That will be a very interesting test for the system. But as to Xbox and Steam playing nice, I always wonder, does it benefit Xbox to get into this handheld market and just say, hey, here's your dedicated local Game Pass device?
Well, it's funny you say that.
All right. Let's go.
Because shout out to Ryan McCaffrey, those guys, the IGN. They had a great interview with the devs. And one thing that caught my attention was that they said the actual tools and hardware will not be limited to just Valve. That if manufacturers want to create their own version, they are free to do so. So,
that's
yes,
interesting.
very much so. So whoever wants to get in the game and have their own iteration of Steam Deck, you can do that, Microsoft or whomever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well there's that. Then I mean that's a pretty significant scoop there, right? Like I didn't even hear that. So yeah, it seems like they could dive in that way. We've heard rumors of the X-Boy, right? There was R&D on that. I feel like Xbox has tinkered with it enough. I know it's not. If they do it through streaming, that's the thing is what Steam Deck does is so amazing to me because it's native off the console. Streaming tech is cool and all, but of course that's what the phones are doing, right? So I feel like it would almost behoove Xbox to look into a native device that runs Game Pass games. I really think it would be awesome if they could do that. I just, the idea of that would send me up a fucking wall.
Bro, I'm literally thinking of myself. The only thing where xCloud and streaming kills me is, again, I'm thinking about that flight I do to E3, that 6 hour, right? And this is where Switch wins because now I bring Switch, local device. I don't need no internet.
Yeah.
You ain't streaming 15,000 feet.
No,
it ain't happening, bro. You ain't doing it on United's Wi-Fi. It ain't happening. No disrespect. But it's like at the end of the day, it's like having that local native device to play Game Pass, like, and I could just imagine it. You're playing it, whatever. You get off the plane. Whenever you do get your wireless, it syncs back up the achievements, and bam! Like you see the vision, brother.
Dude, I love the idea of getting off that plane and hearing the achievement ringing. You've reconnected. Oh my god,
bro!
Man.
Like those are the moments as a handheld gamer that I look forward to waiting. I mean, the plane's delayed. Okay.
Yeah.
Word, like layover. Okay. I'm chilling, and then you get your battery pack. You know what I'm saying? You good? You know the life.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely, dude. Favorite way to game handheld. So I'm all about it. And a lot of people were worried about the comfort of it, the battery. I know the Switch had the same issue. At least for me, the Switch was super uncomfortable. I felt like a kind of a strain on the inside of my hands. I had the same thing with the Vita. I had the same thing with the Game Boy. Like it's just always that way until third parties step in with accessories that help boost these things. Because you look at the Switch where they did a standard Switch model revision, I think a year and a half ago or something, and it just had a better battery in it.
Yeah, and I got that one.
When you wait that long, it's like it's better just to go with third party. Where I remember Carrick showed me a company called, I want to say they're called Blue. I might be wrong on that, but anyway, long story short is they have this kind of battery brick that you just like plug into the bottom and it hugs it. And then you got these two grips on the side.
Oh, the two clips. Yeah, shout out my boy Kabatsu. He got one for me. Yeah, it's very ergonomically nice on the hands and you grip. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And it can charge it in real time. It like overcharges the Switch. So a little halo there. Like it literally just sends it into this overdrive where you'll be at 0, like 1, you'll plug this thing in and it's just, even while you're running the game, it's just like, and it just brings you back to the top. It's incredible. So you're going to see stuff like that with the Steam Deck where I'm not really too concerned about the battery and its comfortability.
One concern though, there is, all right, I'm the Destiny guy. There is an issue currently with certain games that have anti-cheat that from a compatibility standpoint, they won't work well with that Proton/Steam OS. Now, Valve has made a statement. They're going to work with manufacturers. They're going to get to it. But as of right now, if it was to come out right now, like Steam, I think Destiny, Apex, and maybe a couple others wouldn't be able to run because of that. So they've got to work with manufacturers. I'm assuming they will. I mean, it behooves them to try to get all these games to be compatible. So yeah, that's the only thing they got to get that squared away.
Right on. We got another question from Tyler Doughty. Greetings, boys. Hope you're all doing well. I've been thinking more and more about Valve's upcoming Steam Deck lately, and while I'm not a fan of handheld gaming, I play my Switch docked 99% of the time. I can really see the potential for this one more than past handheld systems. First off, power-wise, the APU, which is just a CPU and GPU combined on a single chip, is pretty beefy for a handheld. Even though it has 1.6 teraflops of GPU power, base PS4 has 1.84 teraflops for comparison. The fact that it is new architecture, RDNA 2 to be exact, makes it more similar to a downscaled Xbox Series S than PS4. The CPU, also Zen 2 like Series S, has 4 cores and 8 threads with a clock speed varying from 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz, making it a much more powerful than the base PS4's 1.6 gigahertz 8-core Jaguar, which is already an underpowered modified tablet CPU on release. The NAND and the NVMe SSDs in the decks, various models below the PS4's slow hard drive out of the water, and the decks features twice the amount of memory, 16 gigabytes on deck versus 8 gigabytes on PS4. The thing that really makes me excited is the fact that the screen is 800p, which takes a massive load off the GPU. Since it is a PC, it should be able to take advantage of AMD's Fidelity FX, which is a reconstruction method similar to NVIDIA's DLSS. It takes the 800p signal, downscales it to say 540p, and reconstructs it back up with an algorithm massively increasing performance without sacrificing much pixel quality. All in all, I think this is combined with complete freedom of a PC, Epic Game Store, and Game Pass, making a machine with a lot of potential, destroying the Switch in all categories. Well, maybe except games, he says to some people.
Yes.
But I'm mostly glad just the Switch finally has a competitor. Hopefully, this lights a fire under Nintendo's ass, and we can get some legitimate upgrades instead of more upscaled $60 old ports.
Shout out to Skyward Sword.
Dude, biggest $60 ripoff of the year. That can be played on an emulator on their competitors' upcoming systems. After all my rambling, the question I have is this. By the way, this wasn't rambling. I actually included all this because I thought it was very informative.
Yeah.
How much do you think the specs matter to the average consumer? Is the deck is what the deck offers enough to move people over, or does the name Nintendo stamped on the dated hardware make people pull out their wallets regardless? Love the podcast. Take care, y'all. Tyler. Great write-in, Tyler.
Yeah,
Thank
Tyler's
you for the info.
Fire. I love this right. I'm such a tech geek, so he's spitting these bars. I'm like, talk that Fidelity FX and so, DLSS equivalent.
Dude, he's working for Valve. That's a sales pitch right there.
Yeah, he was in his bag. Look, all those things are fire. At the end of the day, this is going to have an enthusiast base that's going to gravitate. We see the pre-orders, things are going crazy. Mm-hmm. However, I got to pull it back now. I got to get back to reality now. Okay. As much as Grandpa Nintendo's out here hustling, we know Grandpa out here hustling and not doing the most and living off for his name. The reality is, I still think it's two different markets. There's still that niche, that Nintendo, the younger generation. And see, Switch's whole thing is they want multiple ones in the household. Yeah. That's why, in my opinion, that's why I feel that the online is what it is. I think this is a hustle purposely that if they, instead of giving this robust infrastructure where they could play against other people, you play in the house with multiple Switches. They like that. They want that. And to his point, though, I hope that the excitement of this, the deck, does push them, because let's be real, this is the Pro we wanted from Nintendo. Like, come on, Nintendo, can we get Bluetooth? Can we get basic things and like quality of life, bro? Like, really, like, you know what I mean? Like, they're like, yo, OLED, a 7 and a wide back, finished? No, you're not finished. So at the end of the day, I do think Switch will be fine. They still have their first parties that people are going to go crazy about, regardless. But I'm pulling for the deck, man. I think Steam Decks might be a dark horse. They got it, like I said, if they launch right and it starts catch fire and people, the reviews come out pretty strong, I think you're gonna see a lot of people. And this is the first time really PCs in that space. So I'm very. Yeah, I want to see how that rocks, but where you at? Can we vanquish Nintendo?
Yeah. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
So there's actually two things. I want to carry off your closing thought there, and it's that this half step into the PC space is ideal. One of the people who called in for Defining Duke Ultimate was asking about whether they do a PC or a Series X, and they were saying they've never built a PC. There's a complexity to PC. There just is. Of course, you can buy a pre-built, and I think pre-builts they're at their best now. Like, you know, back then you were better off building your own, and I think that stuck with a lot of people. Where now you can come in, you can get a really good pre-built. But even then, some people still want to build their own. There are people who say it's cheaper to build your own. There's a lot of stuff up in the air where people argue it's best to build your own, and so there's that hesitance to get into PC gaming. This is a way you can get into PC gaming without really needing the hassle of setting it all up. You buy it just like your console, but it does PC things. You can use it as a computer. It's a crazy thought, but it's really going to benefit them getting that half step in there. The other point I want to touch on is Valve is smart to leave this thing wide open to be turned into a PC because it doesn't need to be cracked. It's not like the PSP, which thrived and people bought more units. We talked about this in a knockback episode, myself and Colin, where people would double up on PSPs because they'd have like their legit one and they'd be like, this is my toy now. And I'm going to crack this sucker open. I'm going to play NES games on this. I'll play 64 games on it. And there was a whole ROM scene on the PSP. And
I may or may not have known about that.
I remember as a kid, I studied the hell out of it, man.
I learned about that.
Yeah.
Oh, this is an ISO.
I know, right? I was like, man, what? I'm gonna study my ROMs on my PSP. And so I think Valve just saying like, hey, like you don't really got to crack this thing. You don't got to hack it. You don't got to be a tech genius. It's like you turn it into a PC. That makes it, I think, more attractive where people are going to see those videos online and be like, how to turn your Steam Deck into the ultimate PS2. And boom, it's going to be right there with the programs, Windows, how you do it. And I think that's going to really give it its second wind where, yeah, it'll attract core gamers, but word travels fast, man. And when you start to see people playing these old games, new games on the go in the best way possible, I mean, as long as it reviews well,
yeah.
And I'm not making that sound like a small task, but as long as
it's still, it
runs well, it's in its base form. I mean, that this system I think could explode. Like I almost looked at it and went, this is such a guaranteed success. Just I feel like handheld game is doing well. I'm really hyped for it.
I'm really hyped for it, man. I think so. The feel, the energy around it is just different. And I think they've got that perfect form factor to price ratio. And then if you want to go all out, you want to get you higher. And then NVMe, the feature, like there's a lot of advanced features on this thing. So I'm pulling for it, man. I think they may got one.
I agree. We will see in December. Number 3. Fatshark, the Swedish studio behind the Warhammer Vermintide series, has delayed their next game, Warhammer 40k Darktide, which some may forget is an Xbox exclusive. They posted on their official Twitter account, today we made the difficult decision to move our release date of Warhammer 40k Darktide to spring of 2022. We have a responsibility to deliver the best game we possibly can, and frankly, we need more time to accomplish this goal. It's no secret that building a game during a pandemic is a challenge, and we are not immune to this. We are planning to use the extra time to both focus on the level of quality at release, as well as invest in more systems to support Darktide for years to come. We couldn't be more excited about Darktide. In fact, the toughest part is this decision is the fact that we won't be able to put the game in your hands sooner. But I hope that you'll join us in Hive Tertium. Sorry, I don't know my Warhammer lore. Earlier next year. From all 150 plus sharks here in Stockholm, thank you so much for your amazing support. This comes from the Fatshark CEO and co-founder Martin Walland. The 4-player co-op FPS was announced last year alongside gameplay with originally a 2021 window. Xbox Game Pass subscribers will receive this game day one as part of the service when the game does eventually launch. So a little delay here for an Xbox exclusive. Do you remember this game when it was revealed?
Yeah, I remember seeing it. Yeah, I mean, 4-player co-op always going to have my attention just to see what's going on, you know. But yeah, look, COVID, you don't, developers ain't safe. You're not going to escape, most developers. And this is just, par for the course in this type of a pandemic situation. And I always say, delay. Take as much time as you need. Get it right. Don't rush it out. And we'll be here. We got enough to play. We'll be fine. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And salute to them for being transparent and getting in front of it.
Absolutely. I genuinely have nothing more to add on to that. It's a game I'm looking forward to because I like the Vermintide series. It's a shame it got delayed, but I'd rather them delay it. Fills out that 2022 lineup, which is barren outside of a couple of games. So really excited to see what that game turns out like.
Yes.
Best of luck to Fatshark. Can't wait to play.
Salute.
And now let's get into number 4. Let's keep it rolling. Tencent has revealed plans to purchase developer Sumo Digital, who has played both sides of the console war fence. The team is best known for their work on 2019's middling Xbox exclusive Crackdown 3 and PlayStation 5 launch title Sackboy: A Big Adventure. A 8.75% stake was already invested in the developer, and according to GamesIndustry.biz, Tencent paid a 43% premium based on their current valuation at the price of $1.27 billion.
Woo.
Quote, the 3 founders of Sumo who work in the business, Paul Porter, Darren Mills, and I, are passionate about what we do and are fully committed to continuing our roles, says Sumo CEO Carl Cavers in a statement. The opportunity to work with Tencent is one we just couldn't miss. It would bring another dimension to Sumo, presenting opportunities for us to truly stamp our mark on this amazing industry in ways in which we previously had been out of reach, end quote. Quote, Tencent intends to bring its expertise and resources to accelerate the growth of Sumo, both in the UK and abroad, supporting Sumo in the market for top-notch creative talent and the UK as a hub for game innovation, says Tencent's Chief Strategy Officer James Mitchell. We believe the proposed transaction benefits all stakeholders, delivers compelling value for Sumo shareholders while enhancing the Sumo business for the future, end quote. Sumo Digital is added to an ominously growing list of companies the Chinese gaming company has already invested in heavily, such as Activision, Riot, Epic, and Ubisoft. Red Wing Cody writes in, hello, Duke Lords. Tencent is acquiring the rest of Sumo Digital for $1.27 billion and something Microsoft overpaid for Bethesda. What do you guys think about this deal? Are dev companies being overvalued? I don't think Sumo even has an own IP for Tencent to utilize. So yeah, dude, Sumo is absolutely a mercenary, man. Like they went for, I believe, more than Gearbox, who owns Borderlands. What?
What is going
on,
bro?
What the fuck?
Bro, I told y'all. It's cuffing season. Yeah. Big Tencent is out here snatching people up. I'm telling you, y'all like, yo, I don't know if they should buy and buy. Disney's the reasons why. People are out here. Tencent has been doing this, and they got their tentacles in a lot, man. Like you said, you said Activision, Riot, all that stuff. But you know which one surprised me? Not related to this was remember that game that came out? It looked amazing in the trailer. Something Wukong.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the Journey to the West joint. Remember that? Yeah. It looked amazing. You know, Tencent got 5% stake in that.
I'm not surprised, man.
Bro, they got their hands everywhere. So it's like, look, I think. Look, Sumo, like you said, the ultimate mercenary. Like they're out here working for them. Like they got the bag. They got the bag. Now we gonna see what they're gonna do. My question to you, though, I do have a question because they had Big Sackboy, right? What happens with the IP?
I think it's PlayStation's, and they licensed it to Sumo Digital to then.
Very curious. Okay, that's what I wanted to do. Yeah. But other than that, I'm not surprised. I think we're gonna see more of that. We gotta see. We're hearing the rumblings of Netflix. We're hearing the rumblings of Amazon, Luna, whatever it is. I think it's like I'm using Game of Thrones. The White Walkers are here. Like they still, bro. They out here. Don't think winter's coming. People are snatching up. They're gonna turn your studio into one of them. So you got to be careful. What do you think, man? Am I overreacting? Am I bugging out?
No, not at all. I think it's they're wise to sell because people are overpaying. This is not a company. I'm sorry, and I mean this with all due respect. It's not a company worth more than the likes of Gearbox. It's not an eighth of what Bethesda was valued at. I'm sorry, they're not. They're not worth more than Insomniac.
Was it with the magicry of Crackdown 3? Yeah. You wasn't wowed?
No. I wish I do, but I mean, dude, we're laughing at this, but they're laughing their way to the bank. They don't give a shit.
Caked up. Facts.
Yeah, they're just like, 1.27 billion. They probably had to bite their lip when they saw Tencent drop that check on the bill. They're like, what the fuck are they doing?
That was the meeting of the value. Yo, you believe that?
Yeah, right. Like they probably signed that shit immediately. Didn't read anything. They walked out. They're like, yo, those idiots. They just paid us. My God, man. $1.27 billion for Sumo. Hey, congrats to them. But at the same time, I think we need to talk about Chinese money in the industry and how it's getting there, man. It's scary. I mean, we see examples with Riot and Activision where they have not spoken out on serious issues that have involved their games as well because of Tencent investment, where there's too much money to lose. And while Sumo Digital may not be a major player in the industry, it's another step there where I think people need to start talking about this.
Yeah.
I know Collins and Dickerson was a pretty big advocate of talking about it. I want to make sure we cover it here on our show. I mean, this is something that's it's creeping in there, and it's a little freaky. I mean, what do you think of Tencent getting their fingers everywhere?
It's a valid concern. It is a valid concern. I think Colin's on fire with that. I mean, look, at the end of the day, do they have the right? Yes. But it's just like, I'm concerned with the existential stuff. I'm concerned with all that stuff that comes with it. And right now, it's starting. Remember, we talked about habitual line stepping. Like, it's starting to get to that point where it's just like they keep acquiring, they keep building, and bro, like this is something to be concerned. This is something to keep our eye on to see where this is going. Like, I don't know how I feel about this. Or with every single thing, they seem to have, again, their tentacles are everywhere.
Yeah,
and what will be the result, and I'm trying to be positive about it, but I got to be real. It is a concern. So what about you, man? Where are you at with this?
I mean, the concern as well is that there's Chinese money in the media, like games media, major websites that, they choose to speak out on particular subjects, but not others because there's a financial clash there. And I get that money's important, but I mean, my God, man, I mean, when it's starting to spread this much, it is a little worrying where it's like, I would consider it more like, another one bites the dust. Like, here we go again. Where you'll see situations like what happened with, I am forgetting the name of the game, but it was put on GOG. It was taken down. GOG said like it didn't meet some type of quality standard or whatever. This was during December. It was the game where they had some reference to the Chinese president in the game, and it was like a joke about him, and they removed it. I'm forgetting the name of it, but I'm sure the audience will know what I'm referring to. But I feel like you're going to start to see just more instances of that where like even light joking of any kind, it's going to get stamped out. And I mean, that's where we really got to be worried. So it's like you may be just coasting now, but it's why we need to speak about it and just bring attention to it.
I agree. And last point I'll say is I am always big on developer expression and creativity and being unshackled, whatever it is. And once we get into that censorship bag, I ain't really a fan of that. You know what I'm saying? I'm really like, let the creators do what they want to do. And I don't want the financial side to have that influence where they're unable to because your bosses are, the beauty, last point, I got to shout out the home team now. The beauty of like Last Stand Media, right, is that we can say what we want to say. Colin knows like some things I agree with him, some things I don't. You know what I'm saying? But we have that freedom, right, to be able to voice, how we feel, and that's my concern with game development changing under that umbrella.
Well said. So we'll keep our eye on it. We'll continue to report on it, but I just wanted to throw that in here.
For sure.
Number 5, a new wave of Xbox Game Pass games are arriving soon. Here are the additions and subtractions. First, Battlefield 5 is coming out to cloud today. Chris Tales is on cloud, console, and PC today. We'll talk about that soon. Atomic Crops is on cloud, console, and PC July 22nd. So by the time everyone's listening, it'll be out. Raji and Ancient Epic is also on cloud, console, and PC July 22nd. The Last Stop, cloud, console, and PC July 22nd. Then we move to July 26th, where it blinks the time sweeper. Cloud and console. Crimson Skies, High Road to Revenge, cloud and console, also July 26th. Sticking to the skies, we move into Microsoft Flight Simulator Xbox Series X, July 27th. Lethal League Blaze, cloud, console, and PC, July 29th. Omno comes to cloud, console, and PC July 29th. Project Wingman is PC Game Pass July 29th. And The Ascent, cloud, console, PC July 29th. Exiting Game Pass are the following. It Lurks Below is leaving console and PC July 31st. The Tourist is leaving cloud, console, and PC July 31st. And Undermine is leaving cloud, console, and PC July 31st. Anthony J. Sanchez writes in, "Hey, Matty and Lord Cog. The avalanche of amazing games coming to Xbox and Game Pass begins next week. I find myself that I couldn't be more excited. It begins with Flight Simulator on July 27th, followed by The Ascent on July 29th, Hades August 13th, 12 Minutes on August 19th, and Psychonauts on August 25th. I was originally most excited for Hades as I never played it on the Switch, but after seeing Matty's preview of Psychonauts 2, I am now more excited than ever for that game." That's awesome to hear. I'm saying all this, or in saying all this, are the both of you ready for this roller coaster? Also, of the games listed, which ones got you guys the most excited? Thank you, Anthony. Thank you for writing in, Anthony. So, Cog, we got ourselves a nice mini list here. What are you looking to get your hands on first?
Storm's coming. Storm's coming. Listen, every single one of those games. Like literally, like Flight Simulator, I've been waiting. You know what I mean? So I can separate it from my PC and play it where I want to play it. You know what I'm saying? Psychonauts 2, you've already given the rave review. Hades, I had on Switch and I waited.
Oh,
because once
that's going to be fresh for you.
Yeah, it's going to be completely fresh. And then I'm on this new thing now, shout out to King, where it's like, when I know something's coming to Game Pass, like I want the achievements now. Like I want credit for my work. No disrespect, Nintendo. I was like, I was gonna play it, but then I was like, I know it's coming. I heard a lot of rumors that it was coming.
Oh yeah.
So I said, let me just hold out. Did that. 12 minutes is asleep. Got my eye on that. I'm liking the vibes. Yeah, and Ascent, let's get that co-op, top overshoot. Like, let's go. Like, listen. I like what Xbox is doing. If they get this cadence going and we have these months like that, then in between with these titles, and then you got your Halo Infinite, your Forza, like I could start to see a little bit of the vision long term. And this is, again, when we did Ultimate with Colin, he mentioned this, which is, again, you can, not to make it a Sony versus Xbox thing, but at the end of the day, like when you have Sony that makes the AAA, very high quality titles that come out. Let's just say, it's every 4 to 6 months. But then if you're Xbox, if you have these little games and these AA games and the triple all continually coming, it could get overwhelming if the games are quality. And that's what we're hoping right now. But yeah, I'm excited about almost every single one of those.
Dude, I'm the same way. Out of everything Anthony listed, I want to try them all out. Even Hades, which I put like 30 hours into on my Switch. It's like, let's just see what it's like on Xbox, right? Get that feel for that.
Yes.
So really looking forward to that. The Ascent tops my list personally, although Psychonauts 2 is up there now, right? Like I really was impressed by my preview so much so that I laid the game down. Like I had 4 hours of the game if I wanted. And I was like, after an hour and a half, I went, no, I'm good. Like I'm going to wait the month and play it for myself. I was convinced by it. Where the Ascent, it's raw excitement, man. Like that game looks phenomenal.
Tell me real quick about it. So what got you most excited about the set? Sell me some more.
So for me, it's that I love these twin stick shooters. I think it's a bygone era that doesn't get enough love. Shout out to Housemark, who did a couple of great twin stick shooters. It's really that they have that where there's also verticality. They've really been preaching about you can get into cover, you can get up on higher objects. And not that it's not been seen before, but when you combine that with the action RPG elements, the progression, the meat of the game, there's just a lot more there in both content, it seems, as well as the quality of design, where I was like, you know what, this seems different from your average twin stick shooter. And I love those types of camera angles. It brings me back to like Champions of Norath. I just love that angle because I know it's like loot. And if you give me a good universe, like this dystopian world where you see like neon and rain, that speaks to my fucking soul. So I'm really big on the Ascent. I'm excited. I feel very confident that this is going to be a great game. Out of the list of everything we're getting, I mean, there's some I want to talk about, but I got to shout out Blinks the Time Sweeper.
Of course.
Oh, my gosh.
Classic.
This was one of my first Xbox demos.
We get the history, the backstory. Let's go.
This game is legit, man. Please play it if you have not. It is really good. Cloud, too. Like, that's what's wild, man. I played this thing on a demo disc that came in a fucking magazine. And now I'm playing it on a phone? Really?
Let's go.
You can play it on a PC because of Cloud. Like, dude, get in there. Try Blinks the Time Sweeper. It's good. Shout out to Lethal League Blaze. Really fun game. It's just a ball that goes
Yes.
back and forth. If you got another friend you can play it with,
Okay.
it's a good little romp. It's
Okay.
kind of like a sports game in a way.
Okay.
Very arcadey. The art and I don't know if it's the art. The art style is very inspired by Jet Set Radio. The music is by the guy who did Jet Set Radio soundtrack. Now they're working on Bomb Rush Cyberfunk, which does look to be the spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, which I cannot wait for.
Oh, okay. Huge.
Number 6 in the news. This last week, Ubisoft has proven again that Tom Clancy is nothing more than a moldable IP for them to slap on anything involving some form of gunplay and tactics. Curiously, they announced it separate from their recent E3 showcase, and it arrives in the form of free-to-play arena FPS known as Tom Clancy's XDefiant. Pulling from factions across the Tom Clancy series, the game looks like Call of Overwatch. Each of the factions feature their own abilities that can be customized along with their appearance. Right now, players can register for a chance to playtest the game early and help Ubisoft fine-tune for a final release of the game. Anthony Pallarino writes in, "Hey Dukes, Tom Clancy's XDefiant. As a longtime COD fan, this game seems as though it's targeting me directly since I've been wanting a non-BR challenger to COD for a while. But the name is quite bad. XDefiant doesn't really make much sense. And how is this a Tom Clancy game? It also looks cheap. Maybe that's just me. That being said, I will be playing at launch since the game looks very easy for anyone who regularly plays FPS. Rest in peace to all the little Timmies. Is this game the next Hyperspace?" Cog, did you catch all of that?
Yeah, I caught it. I saw it. Yeah, it's not for me. All right. It's from what I saw, it's like early build from what they say. You know, I don't know, man. I just not feeling the vibes Ubisoft is on lately.
Yeah,
I'm still
weird.
I'm in my feelings. They still not doing Splinter Cell. I'm in my feelings with certain things now. We talked about a couple of Defiant Dukes back. You know, Assassin's Creed, Universe, Service, whatever. And I saw this joint, and I'm just like, look, COD fans might gravitate towards this. You know, they say they're doing a lot with the gunplay. It just didn't look that hot to me, honestly.
Yeah.
But again, in their defense, I'll give them it's the early stuff that I saw. But I ain't there. I ain't there with this one just yet. Nothing has resonated with me on this, you know. But that's all I got with this.
Looks way too low budget to really justify existing. I think of Hyperspace, which was actually really fun. Hyperspace, pardon me, was a really good time, but they just needed to fine tune the damage output and some of the abilities. There was just a lack of balance there. But when it came to locomotion, the rhythm of the game, the look and feel of it, I mean, it was actually pretty good. And the issue was they pulled the game down and just like completely went to rework it, which I think was ill-advised because it just killed any momentum the game had. Like when it comes back, I don't think it'll come back as strong, especially with VR phasing out now. And so then they come out with XDefiant, and it's this, like I said, Call of Overwatch game that I'm looking at thinking to myself, what are they doing? Not because here's the thing, right? A lot of people are beating that Splinter Cell drum, and I get that. But this has nothing really, I feel, to do with Splinter Cell because it's like Tom Clancy is just an overarching series. You have Ghost Recon, you have Tom Clancy with the Division, you know, and funny enough, one of the factions you can play as the Cleaners are from the Division.
From the Division.
And so I think on paper, I could see how them writing out went, hey, this is actually kind of cool. But there is a self-awareness of like, hey, this may be a product people would dig. But to not counter myself, but to loop Splinter Cell back in, due to its lack of existence, they should have had the foresight to say, hey, this may be a game that could resonate, but it's not going to because something doesn't exist that people are looking for. I think it's separate and it doesn't matter, but I think it also plays into some of the reception of the game, quality aside.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, I don't want to get too crazy on them, but it's just like, I just get the sense that they're trying to catch a wave. And what I mean by it is like, we call it already Call of Overwatch, right? You call like it's trying to mimic things. And they look to me, it's like, oh, we need something in that space, right?
Yeah.
That's popping now. We need something in the Destiny space. That's popping now. You know, we need something like I don't see the original ideas, and that's why I'm worried we may never see a game like a Splinter Cell. Not that this has completely relate to it. It's just that if they're chasing the bag,
Mm-hmm.
the single player experience ain't gonna be, you know what I mean? For the most part, the stealth game ain't gonna be part of it, and that bothers me. So, I hate to take it out on XDefiant, but I just was like, I'm not there.
Yeah.
It didn't, like what you call it. Say Anthony said, it just. I felt the same way. It looked cheap. The engine did not look that good to me. And, so hopefully, it improves in different iterations. But right now, I'm not there right now.
Yeah. The best game they got going for them is Mario and Rabbids. And Ubisoft, they remind me a lot of how Bethesda was for many years. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Ubisoft sell off at some point. Not because they're in financial trouble, but they are establishing, like, I remember Bethesda just doing these seemingly brain dead moves. Like, let's make a Fallout live service game. And like, I would be sitting there in a room, like looking around at these suits, like, what can I slap every single one of you? What are you thinking? But they had the plan since like 2018, funny enough, the year the game came out, to sell off. And those talks did not just start then. Those were floating, man. So that was going on for a while.
And we've heard rumblings, right? With Ubisoft, we've heard, at least I've heard, something with Game Pass in the future, like an EA kind of deal. I wouldn't be surprised because generally, last point I'll say is generally sometimes when you see companies do this, like you made a good point with Bethesda, maybe financially things ain't as rosy as we think, and they're forcing themselves to do this to try to be financially, profitable.
A lot of people forget that Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legion, and Phoenix Immortals Rising were all supposed to be split up and sold in different parts of the year. Because of the pandemic, they all had to be delayed, and then they released them all three huge open world games in like a 1.5 month window.
Wow.
Not only that, but they hurt severely financially from this. Like, I don't think they're in this drastic negative situation, but I certainly don't think they're sitting pretty. And especially, even if Assassin's Creed Valhalla was omega successful, which it was, I just, when you look at Legion, when you look at Phoenix, I just can't help but wonder, are these doing well enough where they're lifting up the other side?
Exactly. Are they trending downward? You know what I'm saying? Slightly.
Yeah, and so that's why you start to see them reach for these live service platforms like a Defiant, like a Division, like, of course, we're seeing with Assassin's Creed, I think most notably, because it inflates your value. It's why, Bethesda went in on mobile games with Elder Scrolls Blades. It's why they went in on 76. They needed to establish recurrent revenue where it's like, hey, when you buy us, you're getting this much money per month just from that game alone, plus the sales of this, that, and the talent and all that. That's where I think Ubisoft is heading. I genuinely believe. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I feel like they're on that path, that familiar path of you see these moves and you go, why? It doesn't make sense because they know something we don't. And that's now after seeing what happened with Bethesda, where I saw the things, I'm like, why? And shout out to one of my friends, Luke Stevens. I remember him making a video years before talking about how he thought Bethesda was going to sell because of, he was looking at some documents, but he was also hitting up how what they were establishing as games and the recurrent revenue that was there, where it was like, and he ended up being correct. And so I wanted to shout that out because honestly, I see shades of that in Ubisoft right now. Just, they're not going to make that game until maybe they're more financially secure. And not only that, but it's just like how people were with Elder Scrolls 6, where Bethesda lost their way for a while. We'll see if they find it with like Starfield and all that stuff. But a lot of people are like, give us Elder Scrolls 6. I'm like, why do you want Elder Scrolls 6 now? This company has no idea what they're doing. Same thing with Splinter Cell. It's like, why do you want Splinter Cell now? Ubisoft doesn't have a fucking clue. So let them figure it out, then go make Splinter Cell, because they're not going to make a good one now. People will hate them more.
Could be good point. I still want it, but
I respect
I hear where you're going. I hear where you're going, but I still want it. Respectfully.
All right, that's all the news we got this week. Now we get into our Game Pass / backwards compatible pick of the week.
Talk to me.
I handled it this week. My pick is Chris Tales. Now, I need to disclose, I got a review copy for this game over the weekend. I played it a little bit because as I was moving my girlfriend into a new place, had some time in between, popped out the Switch, and we played about a total of 3 hours of Chris Tales. And I have some gripes, but overall, knowing this game's coming to Game Pass, I thought I could recommend it this time around. It is a day one release.
Okay.
So let's start off with what I like about the game. Turn-based RPG.
Oh, I'm in. What's going on?
Lord Turn-based is here. Like, he's already in now.
I'm all perked up now.
Art style, beautiful. Very rich in color. One of the best parts of the game is you have the ability to see the past and present, but it's happening in real time. So you have this beautiful looking game. There's a triangle running up your screen, which represents the present. Then as you pass different characters, on the right side of the screen will be the future. So you'll see young characters become old, and you'll see on the left side the past. So you'll see what they looked like when they were younger, or maybe if they're too young, they just don't exist at all in that realm of time.
Fine.
And then you can time hop and see and interact with different things in different points in time. And this carries into the combat where you can poison someone and then send them ahead in time, and the poison will do extra damage now because years have passed through her ability. Really cool mechanic, right? So it does a really good job. This game is, I haven't read any previews or reviews, so I don't know if anyone shares this sentiment. It's sneaky difficult.
Okay.
The first segment of the game had me wanting to hit my head against the wall at one point. I was like, holy shit, this is fucking hard, because I couldn't get healing items. And you had to, it was a little frustrating because it almost felt like the battles had to be completed in a specific way. But then I realized it's a bit of a learning curve, because it's a turn-based game that actually introduces a mechanic that's very unique, which is this time mechanic. Shout out to Chrono Trigger, of course. But beyond that, like Chris Tales is a pretty unique RPG in that way. My biggest gripe with the game right now is its writing. I think it's very very kiddie.
Okay.
It's, and not in a charming way. It's just very. I say this with all due respect, because it's not a bad game, and there is charm to it, but it's just very amateur in its writing.
Like, in what way? Give me a specific example, like where you were like, not it.
I think it's okay. So I don't want to pull myself into it too much. Yeah. Because it sounds like I'm almost mirroring. But when I wrote draft dialogue for my game, your first draft is always trash. Let's be real. Not only that, but when you start writing dialogue, you realize how easy it is to fall into the rhythm of cliches and kind of say the same things that you would critique. And it feels like they didn't get past that drafting phase. So you would say something like, that's interesting. How can we get around that? It's like, the carry-ons, the in-betweens of the conversations, the character interactions, they feel almost too purposeful and not, they don't flow like these characters are working together. It feels a little too cliche. That's not the worst thing in the world. It's not bad. It just feels, like I said, a little amateur. Not that I'm some veteran writer. Certainly, I'm sure when my game eventually releases, people will have stuff to say. That's fine, right? It comes with the territory. I'm sure mine will not run off the paper like a Divinity Original Sin 2, where it's like, good Lord, this is wizardry on paper here.
Fire.
So I get it. But I'm just trying. That's the best way I can describe it firsthand. Is it because other than that, maybe it's a combination of the writing with some of the acting, where the talent isn't bad, but when the script isn't really popping and then the talent can't really run with it, then you've kind of got a situation where it feels like it's trekking through mud. But do not let that dissuade you, because I think art-wise, gameplay-wise, the story is interesting. You're playing as this girl who comes from an orphanage, and now she's chasing her prophecy, perhaps, and it builds from there. So, like I said, 3 hours in, I plan to finish it. I don't know how long it is, but it's a Game Pass day one game. I think it can get quickly swept under the rug. And hey, shout out to Chris Tales. It's a solid game so far.
Salute. Yeah, I'm hearing good things. Definitely got my interest now.
Yeah, turn-based, baby.
Oh yeah, you already know.
All right, 5 questions to wrap up the show, and then we're out of here. Callum Newson is up first. Hey, B-Cop Matty and Lord Incognito Tab. I like that a lot.
I like it.
I have a hypothetical question. What if Capcom never existed and Microsoft created their IPs? Which studios would you like to see them create? This can include second-party studios, and they provide some examples. Resident Evil does Tango Gameworks. Dead Rising goes to Undead Labs. Dragon's Dogma goes to Obsidian. Devil May Cry goes to Platinum Games. Street Fighter goes to Iron Galaxy.
I'm going to go Monster Hunter with Coalition.
Oh.
I'm gonna see what that do. Because I
Okay.
like, Coalition when the Brumax and
Oh.
all that stuff come out, and to see a Monster Hunter game with it gotta be kind of fire.
I like that.
That's what I'm going with. What you got?
I'm gonna throw Mega Man.
Oh.
I'm gonna throw that to id. I'm gonna throw that to id Software.
Interesting. Why id?
I remember seeing a canceled X game, and it was a first-person shooter that was very Doom reminiscent, which is kind of interesting because I think the gameplay was leaked in 2013, so it was actually ahead of Doom. But when I saw it, I went, now that's a Mega Man game I would play. I would be all over that, right? I've played like all of them, but I'm just saying like that one in particular is like, oh. Now with that idea in my head, I'm like, hand this off to id. Let's have them make the Mega Man game that never existed that can maybe popularize the franchise again and get those spin-offs going that are so strong for the series. I love the Mega Man spin-off. So I would love to see id take Mega Man personally.
Okay. Fair.
Street Fighter would just die under Microsoft because
I ain't one. Yeah, I was like, I know why he did it. Shout out to Callum though. Yeah. I know why, based on association, but we need some fighting studios, man. Microsoft, bro.
Dragon's Dogma and Obsidian, I think that makes some sense, yeah.
Yeah, Devil May Cry Platinum, but Platinum is okay.
I'm gonna throw trying to think of some of the studios they have because I want to take Ace Attorney. We got to throw that to someone, right? It's a little niche game. Let's throw Ace Attorney to. I'm searching through my head here. I don't know if they really have one that fits that bill, do they?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to think. What really fits that?
Like
maybe one of the smaller giants? I don't know.
Compulsion, maybe?
Compulsion. Yeah. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, maybe Compulsion. Maybe that's the one that fits.
Yeah, maybe. That wouldn't be too bad. And hey, I'm on a roll here. I'm thinking like,
let's go. He's in his bag.
Hey, like, let's throw a rare Resident Evil. Let's just see what the fuck happens.
Let's see. Give him a shot.
That or Dead Rising. Dead Rising's probably a little more fitting for rare. Yeah. A little more off the walls. But like, let's see what happens, man. Give them an undead series of some kind.
Yeah, let them rock with it. See what they do.
Good question, Callum.
Yes.
Julian Zhu is up next. Hey, guys. With all the chatter about acquisitions and topics about iconic IPs last show, want to go in different directions. What are your ones that got away? Whether it be canceled titles, deals that fell through, or new ventures / games that didn't quite hit the mark for Xbox over the years. For me, it'll probably always be either Scalebound or the Phantom Dust reboot / sequel. I was always absolutely enthralled with Scalebound when it was announced, but, well, Platinum was really bummed when it got canned after the gameplay demo. Thanks for all the content you guys do. I'm absolutely loving the fire and knowledge that Cog has brought to the show since he's came on board. Your guys' chemistry is apparent. And of course, I love anyone who is in their D2 bag like myself. Much love to you guys and eyes up, Guardians.
Eyes up. I already see. Yeah, man, good question. I mean, he stole one of the biggest ones, obviously, Scalebound. That broke my heart. I would have loved to see what Platinum could have done there. Ones that got away. Canceled. I'm gonna go ones that got away, and I'm still not over Microsoft with having Mass Effect under their belt.
Yeah, they really let BioWare go, didn't they?
I remember. I'm old enough to remember that E3 of seeing Mass Effect for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Right. And it was just like, wow, this cinematic thing. And they show Shepard going over like some type of alien bar and he's talking. And I seen the dialogue. And I'm like, yo, what is this? Right. And they had that in-house. Yes. Like that was could you imagine if Mass Effect was exclusive to Xbox and it was known as an Xbox franchise?
They were there, man, right? They were knocking on the door with the first one. BioWare must have known they had something, right? Because that made it way more popular going multi-plat. And
of course.
I think that was smart of them. But of course, BioWare was tied very closely to Xbox. They did Jade Empire exclusively. Yes. Knights of the Old Republic still has not seen a PlayStation console. It will eventually, by the way, but still has not seen a PlayStation console. BioWare is a major one that got away. That was a good answer. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, man, that breaks my heart because for selfishly, look, for the gamer as a whole, more people got to experience Mass Effect. Great, but for Microsoft, you can't let that one get away.
No, you gotta tie them down, right?
You gotta lock that down.
That
It's a
RPG
different
genre
Microsoft
would
back
be
then.
as over as fighting for that. For
Facts, yeah.
like PlayStation would be in the fighting category for that, right? Yes. I mean, they just no RPGs.
I agree.
My pick would probably be it would also be What Got Away, because I think the canceled ones we've already covered and they're mostly known. One that got away is Mistwalker. I think letting Mistwalker go was a mistake. I think Xbox had their hand in a Japanese studio that would make them exclusive games. They made Blue Dragon exclusively. They made Lost Odyssey, the game that I champion on the show constantly. They made that.
Fire.
And it's like, they let them go after that. And now they're working on this game for Apple Store or Apple Arcade. Sorry. And it doesn't look bad. It looks really good. I want to play it, but they let one get away that could have addressed a major need. Like, now you could have looked at it and said, well, if they got Mistwalker and Tango, we got something cooking in Japan here. We got something going on. You get a couple Game Pass deals in there. You take some games from PlayStation, make sure they're on your platform. Now we're talking. I think one more studio could have made a big difference. And I think they let that get away. Not that they always got to acquire everyone they work with exclusively, but Mistwalker, I don't know how you look at Lost Odyssey and go, we cannot have these people. Yeah. Like, we need to get their talent, their brilliance on the Xbox family. Maybe they weren't as hungry then. 360 was thriving. It was just another notch in the belt. But man, I think they let that one slip as well.
Good one. Good call.
Yeah. BioWare would have been such a great get, though. That's the answer. Jason McGarver is our next write-in. Hey, Dukes. My question is simple, mainly for Matty. So here it is. Oh, here we go. Does Capcom just hate Mega Man? Will we ever see anything again for the Blue Bomber outside of a possible Battle Network collection? I'm personally with Matty and was always a fan of the X series over all the others. Can Mega Man make the jump to a new genre that Capcom finds more profitable, like RPG, open world, or FPS? Thanks all, Jace. P.S. Zero is the greatest character in video games. Design, background, beam saber, long blonde hair. Get ready. Indeed. Woo! Yeah, Zero's sick, man. Shout out to the Zero games. Not enough love for them, but like, those stories are sad. Once you beat the first one, you're like, this is a sad tale of a man who's doing it for X. All right. So does Capcom hate Mega Man? Technically, they don't, with the amount of collection love they've given him over the years.
True.
Technically, they don't. And hey, Battle Network is my favorite Mega Man series. So when they do that collection, your boy's going to be screeching all over the internet.
He's in.
Here's the thing that fascinates me, though, is that Mega Man can and has shown it can easily leap genres and be mega profitable, but they have yet to really do it. Again, they went crazy with it in the early 2000s, as I'm sure you remember, right? Like, I just brought up the Zero series, and you had Battle Network, you had Star Force on the DS, you had X Command Mission, which was a dedicated Mega Man RPG. You had Mega Man Legends. I mean, there were so many genre-bending games. Here's COG where I think Mega Man finds its legs again.
All right, let's go.
Make a Metroidvania-style game.
Ooh.
You keep the 2D roots. You've already seen progression elements in a lot of Mega Man games. You saw them in the X series with the new bits of armor. Make it like that, but you go back and forth between all these levels. You keep that boss design. Like, I don't know how that hasn't truly happened. It takes away part of what Mega Man is, right? Dedicated levels, go in there, drop in, go through it all, then leave after learning the weaknesses of bosses. I know you lose some of that there. Right. But I feel like it opens up the door to be like a little more accessible, a lot more modernized in design.
Right.
They did Mega Man 11 as well. That was a more traditional Mega Man experience. And if they do X9 and it's just like, here's another X game, it's like, I will screech for that too. But I do think, like RPG, they continued the Legends series and did something more open world. Like, there are little test beds that they have done that have shown this series can do it successfully. Not like, there's potential.
Right.
They can do it.
Oh yeah, there's proof.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Are you crazy about Mega Man at all?
I'm casual Mega Man. I know you hardcore. I'm casual. I played them. Again, they used to kind of break me back in the day on certain joint, you know what I'm saying? But listen, I always respected the design. You know what I'm saying? I always thought it was very unique. It was very cool. My boy from Last Word Ebontis, he's huge Mega Man. Like, you guys would get on great. Like, he could talk about Mega Man all day, every day.
Right.
Played a couple of them, but I wouldn't say like I'm this hardcore Mega Man guy. But I will agree with you that I do feel that they could translate well in this modern era, either with an FPS or world. They could easily do it. You know what I'm saying? The framework and the structure is there. Now it's just a matter of being bold and just doing it. So, I agree with you.
Yeah, if they did like a Mega Man Legends remake and they just opened up the island entirely and modernized how the game controlled, you can download it on Vita now and it plays fine. Like I've been replaying it and really enjoying it, but it's just one of those situations where it's like, man, they could really go crazy with this idea.
Oh, yeah.
And it would do so well.
Oh, yeah.
And then we've seen with X Command Mission, just an RPG, a turn-based RPG.
Yeah, that's our thing.
It worked really well and had a pretty good story. So Mega Man's proven itself time in, time out. And I think it's because of the X series that showed that there's a pretty sad underlying story between the Reploids and the humans and the treatment of each other that's there. And plus Sigma emerging as a pretty strong, compelling character, at least in the early going. There was a lot there, and it was clearly very successful for them in the early 2000s. But I think as it started to taper off because of just oversaturation,
yeah.
Because I've collected a lot of Mega Man games, and what I've noticed is I have a lot of them that have like the Mega Man 25th anniversary stamp on them, and I'm like, wait, so these all came out the same year?
Wow.
And they did that a lot, man. So they were packing a lot of games in 5 years, and people got tired of it, understandably so. So I think now's a good time for a little renaissance. Bring it back.
Yeah, they've been away long enough, so yeah, let's go.
Will Hernandez writes in with a question for Cog. Hey guys, I have one burning question for Cog. How does someone from the South Bronx become a Mets fan? As a Mets fan from Brooklyn, I know Cog is a rare breed. So how does this come about? Keep up the great work, gents.
Yo, shout out to Will. That's a good question. I get that a lot. Yeah, man, listen, it was funny as I grew up in the South Bronx, literally 5 minutes from Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, man, that's
right. So it is great, but how it started is like I never took to the Yankees. What it was again, Generation Xer, you know what I'm saying? People don't realize this before the time. In the 80s, the Mets ran New York, the amazing Mets from 85 on, and the promise was there. You had a young Doc Gooden, you had Straw, you had Hojo. It was this magical group of misfits, you know what I'm saying, that just got together. They ran the city. And for me as a kid, that was the first team I ever rooted for.
Right.
And it was the first team that won before me in the most magical way. You know what I'm saying? Buckner, the joint go through the legs. And the amazing Mets, it was a deal, man. It was a movement. So what ended up happening was this. They win the championship, and we thought the run was going to be longer than what it was. And then extracurricular activities and things happen to the team. And then I call it the curse of 86. Since then, I felt like the Willpaw sold their soul to make that championship happen. And they never got back since. But yeah, since then, fun story is I've stayed loyal. And because again, they won before me. We had our little moments, 2000 and whatever, but I still love that franchise. City. I used to go to the old Shea. You know what I'm saying? The one that with Rickett. I want to get your history with because we share this. We share this pain and passion.
Yeah, I was going to say it's certainly a pain.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because for me, I grew up an impressionable young lad, so I was in a house full of Yankee fans. So I followed the Yankees for a while. But I never had the heart, right? I was a pretender. I was like, the Yankees, just like something about them, man. It just, there was a stink on the Yankees. I was just like, I can't support these fools. And eventually I just broke free one day, like, cause my best friends were Yankee fans. Everyone around me I grew up with was a diehard Yankee fan. Like not even just like, hey, let's go see a Yankee game or whatever. Like it was my aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody. It was like a fucking plague.
Yeah, bro. It not to cut you, but it was to the point like wearing a Met hat in the South Bronx, like just wearing a Met hat in New York. Forget you are like they're like the bad news bears to this magical thing. So it's just like at the end of the day, like I always respect when I see another Met fan because I know you stood on your square.
Yeah.
They didn't break you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You stayed loyal. You know what I'm saying? And last point I'll say, a lot of these so-called Yankee fans, they were Mets fans when they were Mets fans was winning, and the Mets got terrible.
Yes, they did.
And they didn't want to associate with that. So it was easy. It was convenient to be with the
Yankees
winning,
in the 90s and the early 2000s. Yes. Oh, my God.
Come on. Steinbrenner's throwing out this cash. They're literally getting any free agent player they want. Like, come on. It wasn't difficult to be a Yankee fan. Salute to the Yankee fan. But I just love my orange and blue. I'm just loyal, man.
Yeah, I live a torturous sports existence, honestly. You know, the Rangers came so close in 2014. I'm a Mets fan. The Rangers are mid-rebuild. And then I'm an Oilers fan. I've been an Oilers fan for over a decade. So the Edmonton Oilers are just this, like, they were a garbage tier franchise that would just draft players that were excellent and ruin careers consistently. And then they get this generational talent in Connor McDavid. And I'm like, certainly now we can do something. And like their general managers, like I may as well get into the office and do their job because they're doing out of it, man. So I'm just like, I've accepted that I may not see a championship before I die from any of my teams, man. Because I'm just like, yo, you all suck.
Yeah.
But I feel like now if you walk, I don't want to walk away. But like if I walk away from the Mets or something, it's like, they'll start winning, won't they? It's like, no,
as soon as you leave, it's
like, I'm going to be here for it. You guys are going to win. You guys are going to win.
Yo, last point I'll say, to be a Met fan, and this is something I think you will appreciate, not only is it tough, somehow the Mets always find the most horrific and embarrassing way to lose.
Oh, this week has been very telling.
Oh, you see the closer? So there's a strength to being loyal to this franchise.
Yeah, it's a willpower.
And we're talking about it proudly. So I respect any man who says they're a Met fan because I know he's seen things in his life. You've seen things, Matty. I know.
Yeah. Absolutely, right? And so they got some good talent now, and it's not worth believing in. But, they also had this, like, back in 05, 06. So it's like, here we go again.
Let's go. Here we go. Yeah. We'll see.
Okay. Well, anyway, it was good to get to know your Mets fanship. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Last question of the show. Kyle Cano writes in, howdy, boys. I'm late to the party, but I think I have an idea that will solve the difficulty debate. 2 options, recommended / pure / intent / developer's choice and custom. This will take nothing away from the purists and make it easier for people like myself who just want to pick up what the developer intended. If people still have a problem, the custom option can be updated a month or so after launch. How does that sound? As for difficulty and accessibility, they're more the same than people think. Just because you can't see a disability doesn't mean it isn't there. Some people have dyslexia, making it hard to read instructions or follow story, or some people have slower reflexes, so no amount of getting good will make up for being too slow to make the right choice when an animation starts. Sorry for the long post. Keep up the good work, boys. Oh, also, I'm always keen for anything with the Mafia theme, so thanks, Cog, for reminding me of Empire of Sin.
Woo! Talk that talk. I see you, Kyle. Yeah, man. Look, it's a good debate. This has been raging. Again, I think Colin was also one in the mix of the crossfire here.
I do say so myself.
Yeah. I seen him about the smoke. You know what I'm saying? He hit me up. I'm like, bro, it's your Twitter, man. You can do what you want, man. I'm a big boy. I'm used. I got 2 wild ones on my podcast, so I already know. But no, I mean, opinionated. I shouldn't say wild, but opinionated. And Colin's gonna say what he got to say. Yep. At the end of the day, look, to this whole thing, we had a good discussion on it on our podcast this Sunday. We had different views, and it was very productive conversation. My whole thing is I'm going to down a sword of that. Let the developer do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. If they choose to put these options and different difficulties, great. You know what I'm saying? If they don't and they want to make the next Dark Souls or Death's Door, they're great. You know what I'm saying? Like at the end of the day, like it's up to them. Now, the second part, I differ a little bit, Kyle, a little bit in a sense with the accessibility. I do still think they're kind of different, but I want to credit Xbox, and they don't get enough credit for this. I feel Xbox has done tremendous in accessibility.
Yeah.
One of my proudest interviews, and I got to plug myself a little bit.
Please.
And didn't do any views, but it was 2018. It was we had the developer of one of the creators and the inspiration behind the Xbox adaptive controller. And he was actually disabled himself.
Okay.
And it didn't come out. The controller didn't come out at the time. They were just promoting it, Microsoft, and just to see the level of configurations and how not only it could work for every Xbox game, and Microsoft made it work for PlayStation and other developers as well too. So you see that. Then as far as the different things, like even me, like where I have the Series S in the bedroom, but sometimes sometimes I will play in bed and I'm far away. Cog's a little older now. You know what I'm saying? The specs is, and don't laugh, but I'm just saying. It's true. Look, you young in the face. I'm old. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like, oh, wow, the magnifier option. Press start. Yo, you can zoom the joint out. I'm playing Phantom Doctrine. The text was too small.
Yeah.
Zoomed that bad boy up. I'm like, okay, cool. They got the controller joint. Right. Someone can dual control with you. Like Xbox has gone leaps and bounds in the accessibility space. So for me, I'm always going to be about, yes, provide those options for people with those situations, no doubt. But at the end of the day, as far as that versus the difficulty, I still think those are two separate issues. That's just where I'm at with it. And I just feel that, hey, developers should do what they want to do. And as far as accessibility, there are things out there to truly help people in that situation. But that's what I got.
Yeah, man, it's really hard to add on top of that because you covered everything that I could have wanted to cover. And I think I share a pretty similar viewpoint with you, which is, yeah, let's fight for accessibility. Let's make sure that games are as accessible as they can be, but we cannot force it on developers. We cannot tell them to do that because if their intent of design is, I want to make a super difficult game or a particular action game or a turn-based game, and it's doing this, and that is their design. They are allowed to do that. They are not forced to put in easy modes or certain accessibility options. And I know that sounds cruel, and I'm not trying to be cruel. I'm more so just explaining that is super important. It is super important to maintain the developer's desire to make what they want to make above all else, because they're the ones making the game. But of course, I look at games like, I think The Last of Us Part 2 is a leading example as a game with strong accessibility options from top to bottom. The developers got time, budget, the ability to do so. I think they should try to. But if we're, of course, it always circles back to Souls games with difficulty and that level of accessibility there. And it's like, hey, look, if FromSoft is wanting to make the most seamless, tough action game, that's their game, man. They're making it for a particular audience, just like that's the thing. They get, I think, unfairly targeted because every developer does that. Every developer targets a audience. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, let's talk my game. I'm targeting RPG fans. I'm not targeting a shooter fan. I'm not targeting people who like puzzle games. I'm targeting RPG fans of my game. And it's like every single person making a game does that. Colin has even said that. Someone who's released a game. Let's talk about that. Someone we know who's released a game.
Facts.
He's literally said, like, yeah, we do these arcade games like a Brick Breaker. We did Abroxia 2. Because no one's doing those types of games. They're targeting a part of their target is we're doing what others aren't doing.
Right.
And that makes sense. So, to my point is, I think it's really important that the developers get to do what they want. I think I've driven that home enough. But you have the ability to, the magnifying of text, colorblind options, that type of stuff. I think, you should be able to expect that stuff to be there. I think that's not wrong at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And then there's also last point I'll say is controller mapping, which I forgot about, is also there with Xbox, which is big. You said it best. To me, video games are art, and I don't want to get in the way of the artist's expression, what they choose to do. That is there, right? And the last point, I'm not trying to sound elitist. I'm not trying to be disrespectful for anybody. I just feel that sometimes not every game is for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
No,
and like you said,
facts of it,
yeah, it's just, there's some things I'm like, look, I'm just never going to be into that or that be good at that or whatever. And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's literally okay. That's all. But accessibility and everything else you said, completely agree.
Yeah. So that is our final question. Thank you, Kyle Cano, for writing in. I would say this is our best episode yet, if I'm honest.
This was fire.
Yeah, this was a really good episode.
Kind of
yeah, I really enjoyed this. Not that others haven't been enjoyable, but I feel like we've hit a rhythm here. And so we hope the audience has enjoyed, as I anticipate you all will. Let us know what you're thinking, as always, with the hashtag. And I think this week got a hashtag fire DD. Like, it's just got to call what it
is,
right?
Yeah, let's do it. Like, let's do it.
Just let them know, right?
Yeah, this was fire. This was fire.
And let us know. Maybe it wasn't so fire. Who knows? But we'll keep the door open on
lukewarm
that. Yeah, lukewarm.
That was fire, y'all.
So, hey, tag us on Twitter at Lord Cognito, at G27status. Those handles were already on screen. And let us know what you think of the show. Of course, do it in the comments if you don't have a Twitter account. Twitter sucks. That's fine. We get that. So, hey, get involved however way you can. Just use the hashtag. Let us know you finished the show. We always like to see how many you get deep, and we see the number increasing. So thank you all so much. We appreciate that. Cog, any closing thoughts, or shall we wrap this up?
Listen, man, hashtag FireDD. This is great discussion. So with everybody hitting us up on Twitter with the hashtags too. I'm starting to see a little bit, and we appreciate the love. But another great one, brother.
Absolutely.
The Dukes.
100%. So thank you all so much for tuning into episode 29. We'll see you with the big 3-0 next week. All right. Peace out.
The Finding Duke, an Xbox podcast, is a product and trademark of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC and is recorded from the good old USA. The show was conceived by Matthew Mr. Matty Plays Schroeder and me, Colin Moriarty, and is written and produced by Matthew Schroeder. The Finding Duke's executive producer is Dustin Furman, and the show is edited by associate producer Ben Smith. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. As you know, all of Last Stand Media's shows, including Defining Duke, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer support level or higher on Patreon, and we're grateful for your kindness and generosity.